Get out of here.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm calling the meeting to order. And before we begin, I will ask the town manager to announce the protocols.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To begin, I ask that everyone ensure their phone is on silent. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town's YouTube. It is important that those within the room remain quiet unless participating in the discussion, and that those attending over Zoom keep their cameras off and microphones muted unless participating in the discussion. It is important that those within the room participating in the discussion speak audibly into their microphone, and that those attending over Zoom unmute themselves and turn on their cameras. Like in person and over Zoom, please state that you live in. And I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second,
Is there discussion? Hearing none.
we want to add that tree at this point to amend the agenda,
Oh, yeah.
so I propose an amendment to the agenda to include public tree removal at 4705 Fallstone Avenue.
So that's in the
Section of the agenda.
It's labeled incorrectly. That's number 7, right?
Yes,
So you're adding an F, which is what's the address again?
4705
Okay.
Fallstone.
You all got that. You got that. See if you. It's section 7. See, it's page. Okay, is there a second on the motion? Second. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, so on the
Yes, the
amendment,
amendment.
well, it's the agenda as amended. Is there further discussion?
I have one more amendment to the agenda.
Well, if it's for the budget, that's.
No, it's for the agenda itself.
Okay, let's hear.
Yeah, at the last council meeting, we had discussed public safety enhancements at 2 intersections, at Warwick Lane and Cumberland and Devon and Dorset. And I think we had introduced those 2 items in the agenda last month with a view to having them on the agenda.
So was that, so I know that the president wrote to me today, but so was that something that was approved at the work session to be put on this agenda and just submitted? Or is it something new?
We had discussed it at the council meeting in April. We'd introduced it with a view to discussing at this council meeting for a decision.
Oh, is that? So we forgot to put it on. Oh, okay. Okay, so the only reason I questioned because I was talking to the president, I don't know if that requires council approval, but why not? So is there a second to that?
I'll second it, absolutely.
Okay. Is there discussion on the agenda as amended by those 2 additions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those, thank you. And our next item is our public comment period. So any citizen who would like to comment on, if it's on an agenda item, best to wait for the hearing on that. But if it's on anything else, please come forward. Is anybody else? Okay, so we will move forward. The next item is consideration of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you. The next item is a presentation by Eliza Datar of Aveole. Did I pronounce that correctly? On a potential beekeeping services for the town of Somerset. And let me say that ordinarily this would be an item that would be on a work session agenda. But due to the fact that there's a possibility that a council member is going to make an amendment to the budget to add possibly these services, we decided to put it on the agenda tonight, so you have the information in order to make that decision. So with that, I'll turn it over to the town manager.
And I'll turn it over to Ms. Tatar for her presentation.
Good evening. Thanks, everyone. I'm wondering, is this a presentation where I can share my screen and walk through
Yes,
a deck?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay, just because every time I try to share it, it is not allowing me to.
I can just-
Yeah. I've changed something on my setting. It might boot me out for a second, but I'll jump right back in. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be very quick. Thank you for your patience. I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so hello everyone. I am Eliza. I'm one of the program specialists at Alveole, working with organizations like your own to initiate their beekeeping programs. So, at Alveole, we offer beekeeping and educational services using honeybee hives and wild bee homes in urban settings to reconnect people to nature. We've been operating for over 12 plus years and have bees in 80 cities across North America and Europe. At Alveole, we think of ourselves as social beekeepers. So we use urban beekeeping as a way to educate people about the environment and our food systems. Our goal is not only to make people fall in love with bees, but also build ecological awareness, help create greener cities where both people and nature can thrive. And we do this by offering the unique experience of installing honeybee hives and wild bee homes on different properties and buildings. So, all of this in order to foster connection between people and nature through educational programming. I did a bit of research beforehand. Hopefully, my facts are right. Someone might have to fact check me after, but it looks like the town of Somerset have championed pollinators for many years now. Apparently, in 1917, the Department of Agriculture established a bee culture station at 4823 Dorset Avenue. Pioneering apiary research was done at this station. And here we see a surviving photo that shows at least 3 dozen sizable hives in the garden. And from what I understand from the mayor, the environmental committee in 2022 or 23 took steps toward supporting pollinators by installing beehives and considering the implementation of a bee home for native bees, which is recognizing the town's commitment to pollinator-friendly practices. Without consistent and professional beekeeping of hives in general, the likelihood of survival in an urban setting, unfortunately, significantly decreases. But to kind of before diving into the whole program of what Alveole would, working with Alveole would look like, I wanted to explain a bit more behind the why bees. So 1/3 of our food supply is dependent on pollination. Crops like coffee, chocolate, avocado, almonds, the list goes on. And with honeybees facing devastating colony losses and all bees are on the decline everywhere, there's an ever-growing concern about the effects that this will have on our agricultural systems. Bee pollination contributes to billions of dollars towards global agriculture. Not only that, but by helping plants cross-pollinate, bees boost genetic diversity, making crops more resilient to things like pests, diseases, and climate change. Diving deeper a bit into honeybees. So honeybees are social creatures, which means they live in colonies in large, well-organized family groups and engage in a handful of unique tasks to keep the hive functioning. So these little friends are like the Jill of all trades. They can do it all. They manage a handful of different tasks to keep their hive running smoothly. Honeybees are calm and docile creatures, and they're basically vegans. So they're only attracted to pollen and nectar from plants. The most important thing, a honeybee will never want to sting you because they immediately die after they do. So how can we help? Well, what we've seen is that when people interact with the hive and experience the docility of the bees and learn about their complexities, they end up really falling in love with them. And we believe that humans are made to protect what they love and should be more engaged with issues affecting all pollinators. But not all bees are honeybees. There are over 20,000 known bee species. In the US, there are 4,000 species of wild bees, and Maryland is home to over 430 species of them. Wild bees don't produce honey. They have an important role in pollination, but they do have an important role in pollination. So, to truly make a positive impact on our urban ecosystem, we need to better support existing species that already buzz around your neighborhood. As a matter of fact, 80% of all blooming plants rely on insect pollination. And much like honeybees, wild bees are affected by habitat loss, pesticide use, climate change, and limited resources. How do we help our friendly wild bees? Same solution as honeybees. So, by providing adequate nesting habitat to better protect them, as well as an abundance of resources, pollen, nectar, and flowers. Now that we've learned, hopefully, a bit more about the importance of bees in our world, and why we at Alveole have made it our mission to create a world of bee-friendly cities, let's dive into what partnering with Alveole looks like. So it all starts with the honeybee hive. So we will provide the hive itself. We bring in the bees, so the colony, and you also get a dedicated beekeeper who comes on site once every 3 weeks to do any inspections and maintenance for your hive to make sure that everything is healthy, and the well-being of the bees are in a good place. In your region, your beekeeper will be Claire. Claire's actually established a beekeeping club at her university and is one of our most dedicated beekeepers. But these beekeepers are also going to be the people who are providing more of that community engagement piece. So those monthly beekeeping visits, we actually encourage the community to come out to these visits, and learn a bit more about the hive with the Claire facilitating that interaction. They'll be able to open up and look at what's happening in the hive, all while learning a bit more about the hives at Somerset. In addition to the honeybee hive, and we've talked a bit about the wild bees, we've also have bee homes. You may also have heard them called bee hotels in the past. So two different nesting habitats for two different bee species, both included in the Alveole program. Wild bees are essentially a habitat, or sorry, the bee homes are a habitat for wild bees to support more pollinators in your environment. And so we encourage to put them in high foot traffic areas, not necessarily right next to the honeybee hive. They can be in parks. I've seen them in schools and senior living homes. And basically, the great piece about the bee home, that Alveole provides at least, is that it's an additional engagement touch point for your community where they can learn more about the beekeeping program. It gives it more visibility as well, as opposed to just having one honeybee hive that sits in your apiary. You can have these bee homes in different areas around town. And people can actually go up to the bee home. We provide signage as well, so they're aware of what this is. They'll be able to open up a nesting drawer and see what exactly are the new species of bees or other insects creating their home in this habitat. In addition to the bee home, oh yeah, so we can see the bee home here and have people checking out what are the different species nesting in there. But in addition, we also included with the habitats is a activities and events. So basically, we'll also provide two events throughout the 12 months of your choice. We have 9 different workshops depending on what is the objective of this community activation. So some things are more hands-on, where folks can actually extract the honey from your very own hive at Somerset and walk away with a little jar of honey. They can make candles out of beeswax in one of our other workshops. And we also have more educational ones, where They learn more about the impact of bees and pollinators on our environment. We have a trivia version. We have even kiosks that we can set up in common areas for people who want to come through and listen to what the beekeeper has to say about the bees that you have on site. So all of these activations and events are fully run by your beekeeper, Claire. All you have to do is choose a workshop, choose a date. She'll come in with all of the equipment, run the whole workshop for you, and even give you some metrics afterwards around how people have engaged with this workshop. In addition to that, you will also receive 100 jars of honey, and this is honey that is directly from your hive at Somerset. So, with these 100 jars of honey, you can do as you please with them. You can sell them, donate the funds to any community initiatives or organizations. You can use them as gifts, do different competitions where this is the prize. Really can get as creative as you'd like with this. And fun fact about honey as well is that 1 jar of honey from one hive can taste very different from honey from another hive because they're pollinating different plants and flowers. And so the flavors, the color, and even sometimes the texture can be quite different from one hive to the other. In addition to the honey jars, you will also have a community engagement platform. So this is basically like an online social media page where anyone from your community can check it out. There's no password. You don't have to create an account. It's just a URL. And it's updated with your beekeeper will update it with any new pictures and videos, keeping them up to date with what's going on at your hive at Somerset. And they'll also see a schedule of when they are coming, when the beekeeper is next going to be at your hive doing their monthly visit, so that folks know how to coordinate the schedule to make sure that they take advantage of that learning opportunity with their beekeeper. And they'll also see when the next workshop is. The most important thing that we found in our 12 plus years of operation is that for something like this program to be successful, it obviously requires some marketing and educational signage to make this successful. So we will actually be the ones creating all of this branded signage, posters, announcement templates, event invitations. We'll just need your logo and whatever direction you want for the branding. Our team puts it together and delivers to you the branded signage, as well as the online digital collateral that you might want to spread to your community to make sure people are excited and aware of this program that is coming to town. So with that being said, the program costs comes down to $12,025 per year with a one-time installation fee of $800. If this is something that you renew in the years to come, obviously the $800 will not apply. And that comes with one branded honey beehive. So we have a plaque that we can put Town of Somerset on the beehive so people know. The professional beekeeping service, including monthly beekeeping visits. One thing I hadn't mentioned actually is if you have any bee-related incidences in the neighborhood, you can actually also call on our beekeeper to take care of that, even if it's not the bees that we have brought onto site. You'll also get 2 bee homes, 2 workshops, 100 jars of honey, the online social media platform, engagement reporting, so the metrics around how many people are visiting your online platform and attending your workshops, branded signage, including a QR code where people can just scan and get all the information on your beekeeping program, the customizable toolkit, and commercial, general, and automobile liability insurance of up to $5 million. So if there's any bee-related incidences, we'll have that covered as well with that liability. And that is all that's included in the program. I am wondering if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Attar, for that excellent presentation.
You're
So now I'm gonna call on council members for questions, but let me remind everyone that the purpose tonight is not to approve this particular contract. That would come later. The purpose tonight was to decide whether, if anyone wants to amend our budget to include services for beekeeping. So with that, I'll turn it over to Council President Barr.
Thank you. We experienced complete loss of our bees with the original hive that we had here. I guess that's colony collapse disorder. Have you experienced any colony collapse disorder in the hives that you've had, and what kind of preventive measures do you have in mind to manage that?
Yeah, excellent question. Excellent question. So we have experienced some colony collapse. A few years ago, it was definitely more of a larger, more global disease. It was, for lack of a better term, kind of like a COVID, but for the bee species. That number of colony collapse has reduced significantly over the years. I think a lot of the news coverage has helped people become aware of this and empowered people to take their own actions towards supporting pollinators. But essentially, part of the monthly beekeeping service is to mitigate exactly that. This past year, we actually had the lowest rate of colonies that didn't survive in the winter. So that your beekeeper, Claire, will come on site and they will immediately see if there's any signals that the disease that causes colony collapse is taking place. If they do, they'll immediately take measures to mitigate that. Um, but it has been at least a year since I've heard any of our colonies not making it due to the colony collapse specifically.
Thank you.
Councilor Howell, do you have a question?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kumar.
Thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering if you have different tiers of services, or is it just that one tier at 12,000 a year?
Yes, we do, in fact. So in my initial conversation with EJ, it sounded like the Meet the Bees was the best option based on the bee homes being something that was discussed in the past. However, there is a lower tier and there's a higher tier. So this tier that we are seeing in the last slide, if I can go back, having struggles navigating this, but the slide that I had shown earlier is essentially the middle tier. The first tier is 8,000, around just under 9,000. The main difference is there is no bee home, so you'll just have the honeybee hive, which is more than enough in a lot of cases. And you will have one less workshop, so just one instead of two, and you don't get the engagement metrics. But other than that, everything else is included. So the MyHive platform, the online platform, the marketing toolkit is included, the 100 jars of honey is included, and of course the beekeeping service and the colony of bees itself.
Quick follow-up, which is your most popular tier?
It really depends on the type of partner and what their objective is. So for folks who are really focused on creating more engagement within their communities and education around the beekeeping program, the tier that I presented is the most popular because it has the bee homes. So instead of one habitat, you have three, and the bee homes are more interactive in that you can pull it out and see what the nesting tubes are. And this package also includes an additional workshop. However, if the workshops is something that you would like to really leverage, and one is not enough in the lower tier, you can always add on additional workshops. They are at a $900 price point for each additional workshop, but you will be guaranteed at least one with the lower tier.
And then do you need to sign up for multiple years as a start, or can one
No,
start with 1 year at a time?
Exactly, you got it. So you can start with 1 year at a time. And it's a 3-year contract, but there's nothing stopping you. There's no cancellation fee for stopping after 1 year. And you can always add on. So if you are like, well, we want to start with the lower tier and then upgrade in the next year or even before that, you're not locked into one package. You can always upgrade at any point.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rovak.
We've gotten some articles and information about how some of these bees can compete with native pollinators and native bees. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so bee competition is definitely a subject that has come up in the past. And so if that is a concern for your community, that's why we've introduced the bee home. So bee home will help support more of that native bee community. However, with one beehive, it's actually quite not enough to create bee competition. In fact, back in the day, in our early days, 12 plus years ago, we often had folks request more than one hive, honeybee hive, to be specific in their properties. We've actually stopped doing that because we want to respect bee competition. And then a few years later, we even introduced the bee home. But all that to say that with one honeybee hive, it wouldn't be enough to to kind of stir up bee competition.
And so what's like the, perceived, like what's a good outcome of having this program?
In regards to,
Like, I mean, our bees that we had all died.
yeah,
So, what does is there like a view of success of what this looks like and what does it give back to the community by having this?
I got you. Thank you for clarifying. Um, So the with alveole specifically, like there as you folks might know, having had an apiary before, there's a whole breadth of different beekeepers, beekeeping services. For at alveole specifically, our focus is really around creating meaningful connections and building a stronger community through connecting over the beekeeping program.
Okay, thanks.
And exactly, yeah, I can dive deeper, but hopefully that's enough.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Khan.
Yeah, so just to follow up on Shannon's question, so I'm trying to understand better what is the environmental benefit of having a honeybee hive.
Great.
That's $12,000 a year for one beehive.
One beehive and two bee homes, correct. As well as the 100 jars of honey, the workshop where we bring all the equipment that's necessary, and then the beekeeper services as well, and then the online platform.
Share.
And so with that, the environmental impacts. So essentially, by bringing habitat for them to be able to thrive in, this will this will also impact the biodiversity of the spaces around the where the bee is. So bees will be able to fly up to 3 to 5 miles around their hives. What we've seen is from folks who have kept the bees year after year is that they've seen more growth, more blooming, more fruits, more vegetables, more flowers, just more richness and density in their greener spaces. So in addition to that environmental impact, we also have the educational component. If the environmental component is something that's of interest, that's in the highest tier, the third tier, we have an environmental report that's included. And basically what we do is we put little sample strips in the bee homes and the bee hives. As the bees fly in and out of the habitats, we collect their eDNA, so environmental DNA. We process this, the samples and are able to, in which we're able to tell you what how your biodiversity, we can identify invasive pest species or plant species. We can make recommendations on different types of plants to be able to increase the biodiversity of the area around you. And so we could definitely go deeper on the environmental component, but that again is going to be at a higher price point and is also something we can add at a later point if it becomes more of an area of interest for you folks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight, Ms. Tatar, and we will be back in touch with you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you. All right, the next item is public hearing consideration to adopt an ordinance to adopt the budget for fiscal year July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026, and to levy a tax on certain real and personal property under the provisions of section 6203 of the tax property article of the Maryland Code as amended. This was introduced at the April council meeting. And the way we're going to proceed tonight is first, the town manager will make a brief presentation. Then there will be questions, any final questions from each council member. And during that round, if you are planning to introduce any amendment to this budget, if you could please announce what that is, so that when we go to the public comment period, the public will be able to comment on your amendment if necessary. So with that, I will turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't talk long. I'll just quickly recap the process. The budget process for this year kicked off basically in February. I met frequently with the Finance, Revenue, and Budget Committee, which includes Chair Peter Tynan, John Medallia, John Barry, Nicholas Fox, and Council Liaison Kabir Kumar. We met multiple times until we had a budget ready enough to go before town council. We had 2 budget work sessions combined between the town manager, the budget committee, and the town council. And then after that, it was introduced at the April meeting. After the April meeting, it was shared in the town journal, both in print, of course, and online. And so it's been through a lot of different revisions, and it's been touched by a lot of people. And I think so that is just the recap of the process. I hear that to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Council President Barr.
Yeah, thank you. I propose an amendment to allocate up to $15,000 to reestablish a honeybee colony in the town. The amount can come from unencumbered reserves.
Okay, so that's your amendment you're going to present. Did you have any other questions?
I have no other questions.
Thank you.
on the budget.
Council, thank you. Thank Councilor Heller.
I wanted to introduce an amendment. I want to call your attention to the town manager pay scale. I'd like to change that to $135,000. Do you want me to talk about that now or later?
Well, you can just say
Okay, so what happened was
why you're
I did a survey of 5 or 6 other towns. I apologize that notice sitting on my desk at home, but we are low, even at $135,000 compared to other communities, especially one that's even smaller than us that pays a lot more than we do. So I think we need to begin to get up to par. So that's why I'm suggesting this amendment, was to add another $5,000 onto his salary.
Thank you, Councilor Kumar.
I just wanted to thank EJ for driving the budget process and all this hard work. I don't have any questions. We've had good discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rogan.
I don't have any.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Khan.
Yes, thank you. The question, 2 questions from me. One is, in the discussion on the budget, I see we also have a discussion on the fee schedule later on. And so my question is, if we make changes to the fee schedule later, are we going to have to come back to the budget again, or do we discuss them both together? Because, or is the fee schedule have no impact on the budget?
It doesn't have an impact on it doesn't have an impact on the budget in terms of like the numbers might change, of course, the actuals might change, but then what's proposed wouldn't change.
Well, they're not related because the fees are related to the revenue, and the revenue is not really, there's just numbers being put in. It's the spending side is what's most important in the budget.
We have revenue estimates against our current fees.
Yes.
If anything, our revenue estimates will improve.
Yeah, so
Because in most cases, we are increasing fees. Keep that.
Right.
okay, so but
But you had an amendment.
I do have an amendment. So I just want to understand what I'm supposed to bring it up now, or when we
Yeah,
bring it up.
Yeah, I would
Bring it
agree.
up now.
we want
Yes.
you to bring it up now.
So I would like to propose an amendment, and actually it's a bit broader than what I had originally anticipated. I would like to propose an amendment that would waive several recreational fees.
Okay, so that isn't, the only amendment now would be to a number in the budget. That would be something separate.
But aren't they related?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
But, so when the budget's passed, that's numbers, that's revenue and expenditures. So are you going to introduce an amendment to the budget on the expenditure side?
It will impact the expenditures.
So-
Why don't you
so-
finish your sentence?
Yes,
Yeah.
so that's my point, is that if, for example, we were to waive the water aerobics fee, would that
Okay.
affect the expenditure side?
Yes. it
Yeah,
will be-
so-
If we were to.
so what
if
you
we
wanna
were to
do-
waive
what
the
you wanna
tennis
do-
fee, would that affect the expenditure
No,
side?
on the revenue side.
So what you want to do is, what you want to do. Because I believe that what you want to do is for water aerobics, so you want to put back in what was originally in there, which was an expenditure of, what was the dollar amount?
4,000.
Yeah, so you're gonna put it, you're gonna have an amendment to add $4,000 to the expenditures.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
The question I have also is whether, I know there's been some discussion about whether the early bird swim
But that,
and water aerobics should be treated equally
okay,
or
but
not.
that's not, but I, from what I understand is your amendment is just for the expenditure of the water.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other amendment?
Well, I would like to propose an amendment that would also waive the early bird swim fee.
So you're gonna have to,
So
we'll figure out the dollar.
Just say the amount.
That would, according to this, the revenue there was $3,000 that would need to be added into the expense.
Okay, so now, okay, so that's the information.
Yes.
Okay, so now we will invite the public to comment on the budget
Those are the two.
or any amendment. Anybody? Okay, so with that, I'm going to close that part of the hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to the council president to have the discussion. And maybe we should do amend.
There's
One
three
by one
amendments, so
amendment,
let's do the three
yeah.
amendments.
So first, somebody should introduce the budget and a second, and then before we have discussion of that, we
We'll do the
can go
amendment.
amendment by amendment.
Right.
So is there a motion to?
Yeah, motion to approve the budget.
Second.
Okay. So now, well, let's go with your amendment.
All right,
You-
all right, so I propose an amendment to reestablish a honeybee colony in town. The set aside budget of up to $15,000 be taken from unencumbered reserves. Is there a second?
Well, I don't think it's the same where it's from.
Well, are we moving it from somewhere else or are we taking it from
Yeah, it's
reserves?
you're just
It would
putting
have
it-
to-
Yeah, I'm putting it in,
You're
but
just
instead, I
putting
mean,
it- yeah.
there's money in on it.
It's just an amendment for a dollar figure for a certain.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so there's a second. Is there discussion on this amendment?
Was there a second?
Well, is there a second?
Was there a second? Oh, okay.
Nobody wants it.
Robin, would you consider a different amount?
Well, you can,
I suggest it. Yeah, go ahead.
I propose to amend the budget to include $8,000 for town beekeeping services
okay, is there a
for
second?
this coming fiscal year.
Is there a second?
You could second it.
Well, I'm thinking,
Remember, everybody, all this is putting the
Well,
money
let's get
in
it-
the budget, because it doesn't mean you have to approve a contract in the future, it's just
Exactly.
that you're putting it in the budget. Because if later on, if you didn't add it to the budget at this point, then later on you have to find the money to
Yeah,
transfer. from somewhere
I will say it could be up to 15,000 includes 8,000, so we can talk about it later, 8,000
You're not
doesn't include.
seconding the 8,000?
So
Well, I can second it, but I said,
Are
are you seconding it?
sure, I'll second
Okay,
8,000, go
okay,
ahead.
is there discuss, so the amendment is to add 8,000 for beekeeping services, is there discussion?
Yeah, I think we should discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
in favor of this. I think we did beekeeping once and it didn't work. Our bees died. I'm kind of looking at this as I listen to the proposal, from, I don't remember her name, excuse me. And all I could think of was, this is like beekeeping for rich people.
A
And
luxury, felt like a
It's a
luxury.
real luxury item, and we're not.
Those were nice looking homes.
Right, and all I could think was about those houses, our houses are expensive, so the bee houses are expensive.
There was no attached garage, what do you
Yeah,
mean?
right, no attached garages, plenty is good, but I just feel that it's a luxury that I don't think we should do, and I think if you wanted to be, I know I have friends that keep bees in their backyards. And I think that's what's appropriate, and I don't think it's a fair expense for our resident, for us to ask our residents to make it this time.
I agree. I think that it's just, I mean, it seems like you get to put up a plaque that's like, yay, we support bees, but that, $12,000 is a lot of money to get a plaque. Pat on the back.
Okay, is there further discussion?
Yes, I mean, I think I agree with Debbie and Shannon. I think that is on the question of whether we should have a honeybee hive or any such company. I think this is a matter that really we should get advice from the Environment Committee and the PNRC. From what I see, the Environment Committee is not really on board with this idea. There are questions about the competition between honeybees and native bee species. So I for one don't really have a sufficient understanding of the biodiversity impacts, and I think we should refer the matter to our two committees. I also think that any plan for having beehives or any other plan for bees in our town parks should wait for the park management plan that we are proposing. We all know there's a big problem back there, which is that certain vegetation is being cut back. What is supposed to be meadows over there is getting mowed and becoming grass. There's no point having a beehive there where we are undermining biodiversity in different ways at the same time. So we should have a comprehensive management plan. We should discuss this matter. We should get the advice of our two committees, and then we should come back to this later on. And that's why I would not be in agreement with any money.
Okay, so further
I
discussion.
just want to add something to it.
Go
I
on.
want to, that, I think Rohit is right that we need to take it back to the committees. And I would like to understand what happened to our first go around here. How did our bees die? Maybe we're not, hospitable to bees, I don't know.
Not
But
meant to be.
Okay, well, remember, all you're doing tonight is putting or not putting money in the budget, so that all these are good. Is there further discussion?
Robin, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to respond to Rohit. The Environment Committee did, in fact, propose the original bee apiary in town, honeybee apiary. And so they have been in favor of it, and I presume they will be again. As you heard, bees have a radius of 3 to 5 miles. So what's in the park is of minor importance to them. They go through a much larger area to go there. The issue of colony collapse disorder, it was the first question I asked, because that's what happened to our bees. And what I heard is they do their best to manage it, and they have not had any such collapses in the last year. But presumably they do replace the bees if they are disordered. But if you feel, if the council feels that it should go back to the committees, then we can take it back to the committees and see what happens.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Of the amendment, what are we voting?
The amendment
8,000 amendment.
to-
All right, I'm in favor of it, yes, and
Okay, all
Kabir
those
is too.
opposed? Okay, so the amendment fails. Okay, Councilor Heller. Yeah, the amendment.
Okay, I think we need to approve my amendment to raise the salary.
Yeah.
Um,
Could you mention the dollar figure again? Is it
Yeah.
160 or 130?
it was 135.
135, okay.
Yes.
Is there a second?
So, go ahead.
Is there discussion? Hearing none.
Sorry, I would like to, I just want to ask, I don't know what is the appropriate way of doing this? I mean, I'm in favor of the increase, but I would like to have a further discussion about the documentation that was sent around with respect to that. EJ on,
What will?
Well, if you want to go over, it, if you want to go over that, we have to enter executive session.
that's right,
You need a self-evaluation?
yes.
I'm happy to do that. Just so you know, we did this is the second year we've done a pretty comprehensive
Right.
review. I think that we had reason to increase it previously, but we didn't align last year. I think there's good reason. So only a $5,000 increase.
I would like to see us begin to go more.
Just so you
thorough.
know that just that history, but I'm also happy to go in executive session and go through it. And just so you know, EJ has run a review of the rest of the stuff. That is
Well,
federal.
what I would suggest is, this is, basically the mayor's recommendation. And we've gone through an extensive process. And I would urge you to just support this amendment and to address Councilor Khanna. We can go to a session with EJ in the future. But I think there's the votes to pass it, so I'd better not to take the time tonight.
I'm fine with that, I'm fine with approving Debbie's proposed amendment today, I have no problem with that, but I would like to have an executive session at some point.
Okay, we will do that. Thank you. So is there further discussion on that amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, Councilor Khanna.
Yes, so I am proposing an amendment to the budget that would waive the fees for water aerobics.
Well, no,
Yeah,
to help you, your amendment is to add
that's right.
fourth. How much is it?
$7,000.
$7,000 to the budget in order to cover the cost of water
Water
aerobics
okay.
and early bird swim.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
Is 7,000 a reasonable estimate for the total cost?
It's low, slightly more than 7,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basing it off the revenue
EG can give you the
projection in the
exact-
budget document.
My guess is that's a little bit low.
Because according to line 43-100, pool fees, guest passes $7,000. Early bird swim $3,000, water aerobics $4,392. And I'm not touching the guest passes issue because I don't think that's an expenditure.
7,390.
Well, why don't we make it
7,390.
why don't we make it 8,000, which would
Well,
cover
so
the,
did you
No, it's
leave out?
7,392. We don't need to make it
Can I
8,000.
just-
He's
No,
already
don't
made
expend
I
it.
have an
second.
important question. Did you leave out stroke and churn on purpose or just it wasn't in your equation? You didn't think about it?
Never charged a fee for it.
Yes, I think we did.
Where exactly is it in the budget? It's part of it struggling with the revenue side, because I don't see the revenue side.
EJ.
We don't have a
Mr.
revenue,
Manager.
we don't have a revenue line item for stroke and
It's
technique.
not on the revenue or the expenditure side.
No,
Did we do it for free last year?
Yeah.
We charged for it.
yeah.
Okay, so we did it for
It
free.
wasn't
meaning
town-
We paid for it out of
So
somewhere.
what is it this year?
So it's done by the swim, it's kind of like it's not a swim team.
The coach.
People, not, non-swim team people can use it, but it's kind of under the swim team.
Are they still
From
gonna do it this
what I
year
understand.
with Coach Kalen?
They didn't
Well,
give
now
it
you know
to
why
us
I
as part of
put
the
my
proposal.
amendment.
Okay.
It didn't come with the swim team proposal to the
It's
budget.
not a swim team.
It
thing.
didn't come in.
Stroke and turn is for that, anybody can go to it, but the premise behind stroke and turn was to get people who weren't necessarily great swimmers down to the pool to learn so they feel more confident and
As the
want to
name
swim.
suggests.
That's where it came from. It wasn't the swim team thing.
But we have a new coach and the coach last year is the one that taught it.
Right, but this new coach,
We can come back and look at that
Look at
when
the-
it comes up.
this new coach supposedly, I got this
Oh,
from that
okay.
staff, will do it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So,
But it's such
so
a
that does
nominal,
answer Rohit's.
I think it was like $800 last year, am I right? Maybe
I'll
less.
Look into it.
We also had a very expensive coach.
It was about that.
Remember, he has contingency. EJ has ability to approve dollar amounts of that
Okay,
amount.
But just remember, his amendment, it only addresses two services.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
but
this
Debbie's
other,
asking why.
this other
it's
can
not
be,
the-
right,
Because we
well,
don't
the
have the
answer is that
dollar
we'll have to
figure.
get back to you.
Okay, so, but I know we are talking about this dollar amount put into the budget, just in case we decide we're gonna do it. Putting the money into the budget doesn't mean we're going to do it,
Are
right?
you proposing to add 800?
No, I'm not,
Okay,
because I really think that this is a conversation that we need to have in the whole. I really would prefer we table this to next year and have the conversation that we kind of always dance around each year. And it's one of the services that we as a town want to provide to the pool for all the residents. And does it make sense? So this is a conversation and there's lots of things to talk about with that. So that's why I really would prefer we table this to next year's budget. My 2 cents.
Okay, is there further discussion?
But I'd just like to add, I agree with Debbie that we should table it, but did you mean?
Well,
to
it's, but if you want to table, you have to make a motion. to
Well,
table.
right, well, I want to
you're
get
voting no.
clarification from Rohit. First of all, did you mean to leave out the swim team? And the swim team will still be paying a fee?
Yes, I wasn't touching the swim team fees or anything like that.
We can't touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
We
We'll
can,
come.
we should.
I didn't intend
Okay,
to do
better
it, so
put, we
whether we
shouldn't.
can or cannot, I did not.
Well, you can make a proposal.
Well, I was
Would you
just
like
trying
to
to
make
So
say,
right now, you're discussing the motion, which is to add
Right.
funds to cover those two
And
services.
this, and you know what, if you want to talk about the swim team, this falls right into what I was saying. We should talk about our pool and these extra services, swim team, all of our programs. Talk about it as a group and say, okay, what do we want to do?
They're
Yeah.
not mutually exclusive. We
Right.
could accept this amendment. It's not a significant amount. We have the ability to do it and we can still have this conversation.
So can I guess I'm just, like, I understand like the water aerobics and I understand because like it's operating during the pool hours. And the early bird swim to me is like a program where we have to staff that, early before our operating hours are of the pool. And so like, that's a really special kind of like thing where we're paying lifeguards and, insurance or whatever, to open the pool at a certain time. Lap swimming is free for people all day long. But it's the early portion of it is for, special people who want to swim earlier even than that.
Like your neighbor.
So you
But
have
I
the
guess I'm
option,
just-
you have the option to amend the amendment to strike the early bird swim from the amendment.
Well, I guess I need to be sold on why that should be part of the free services when we're opening the pool specifically for this. Like, we're not opening the pool for the water aerobics.
Because
It's
we
just-
are hiring instructors.
True. Yeah, so that is true, so.
Well, maybe the
see
maker of the
that.
motion can,
And that's why I
Answer your
wish we could
question.
just take this out at a work session and really talk about it.
Let Rohit answer
I'm sorry, Rohit.
and I can answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think, I'm not disagreeing with Debbie's point at all, that, some sort of a comprehensive discussion on pool fees, might be a good idea. But I think that we can come back to it next year and have a comprehensive discussion. I mean, I think, to me, here's the way I see it. The town budget can absorb this money. Our property tax revenue is going to be pretty high. Everyone is going to be paying a lot more in property taxes this year. Therefore, this town can actually afford to absorb the costs of these community activities. And at the end of the day, the pool is the heart of our town's community for the months that it's open. And so whether it is the early bird swim or the water aerobics, I feel that our property taxes takes care of it. And looking at the budget projections, we can absorb it. And that is why I think that something that's so central to the town, we should just waive the fees for.
Let me add one more thing to your specific point that we are opening the pool earlier. It's actually, the pool is open early then. So it's available, as far as I understand.
We opened it up early. Pool is open at 7. Swimmers can come at 7 from 7:15 to 8.
But anyone can use the pool.
Well,
right.
they have to sign up.
Yeah, but it's sort
You
of.
have to pay.
And
But-
only
but
36 people.
But if I
can.
wanted to come to the pool and use the shallow end of the pool, I'm
No,
allowed to do that?
no.
I'm not.
No.
It's only for lap swimming.
So why can't we change it so that anyone can use? the
Because it's
pool?
one guard who's
I
focused
see.
on,
So it's a limited one guard.
right, I-
expense.
I don't
Okay.
think anybody minds paying for it, to be quite honest,
Yeah.
but I think it's something we should talk about, that's all.
But can I also clarify, this is included in our American Pool contract?
No.
This is an added expense on the
Well-
American Pool contract?
Only go- the only
It's an
go-
addendum. We added to the, it's an addendum, okay, okay. Okay,
I'd like to raise a point against Rohit's argument that property taxes can cover it all. The way I see it is that we have a small group of people, 36 for outdoor swim, about 25 for water aerobics, for which we're paying for all of those are paying for that service if we give it free. Why? When only 25 people are using it. I understand the pool when there's a majority of the town that's using the pool at some point, and so therefore it's something worth.
Well,
contributing
all
to
of us
property
are
taxes.
paying, all of us are paying for the pool and we're not using it. All of us are paying.
Right, well,
for the tennis court.
that,
All of
well,
us are paying
the
for
tennis
the
court
tennis
has a
ball.
fee, tennis court has a
Equal
fee.
access to, everyone has access to it, anybody can sign up for it.
And the pool does not currently have a fee. I said it used to have a fee. The point is that a majority of the town does use the pool, so therefore there's more of an argument that property taxes can cover it. But when you're down to small numbers, I don't see it as a good argument for property tax covering it at that point.
no, I think Rohit was saying we can absorb it. It's a good service, it's valued, this is like water aerobics, it's been going on for a long time, as far as I can tell, so it's very valued. There isn't a good answer to Shannon's question. You know, it is an added, we do an additional thing to deliver it. You know, but I can see, you know, we are actually, if you look at it, we didn't talk about it because we did it in our work sessions, but we're offering a lot of other services for the youth. And we're absorbing those costs. And they're similar amounts, 2,000, 3,000, there are at least 4 or 5 line items like that. So I think it's in the spirit of that for these other communities can be also absorbed.
Yeah, I mean, I think, do you think, I mean, as an early bird swimmer, I mean, do you think that the early bird swimmers who sign up every year would be like, all of a sudden, like, oh, great, because like now anyone can kind of come and show up and swim laps, like.
There's a problem, there's another problem to this, is that anybody, we don't have enough space for just anybody to show up, which is why paying for it
Right.
and limiting it is a good idea.
It is a lane
It
management.
is a lane management problem, so let's say, you know, we will take 18 swimmers, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 18 Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So 36 in total. And we would have a management problem.
Yeah,
I think, Debbie, though, I would be somewhat reluctant to agree that ability and willingness to pay should be the basis for lane management. The fairest way of lane management is just first come, first serve and sign up, and once it's full, it's full. But to say that we would exclude some people because some would be willing to pay 100 or whatever and others would not, and that way we'd be able to manage the numbers. I would not be in favor of a fee in our town should not be a way of restricting access.
But you can do lane management without the fee.
Yeah,
It
you
never
can do that.
was. The idea was we couldn't open the pool without paying for a lifeguard.
Right.
So
No,
we hired-
you're right about
Yeah.
that, you're right,
That
that
is-
is agreed,
And that's where it
agreed.
came from. And
But lane management is doable, I suspect it'll be the same 36 people, no one else is getting up in this town at that hour to do lap
I'm
serving.
gonna start doing
You know,
that.
so, you know, I think it's gonna be the same
Let
diehards.
me point something out. So for example, the tennis court, forgetting that the fee for the court. But it's not as if everybody in the town can use the tennis court whenever they want. So all these services, you still gonna have to sign up and there's a limited amount that can go to water aerobics, there's a limited amount. And so it's all about, you know, whoever signs up, and then we have to figure out a way to make it equitable.
But I agree with you, we should do a comprehensive conversation because residents have asked to waive the guest fees.
So
at
there's
the
that.
pool
Right,
Because,
right.
you know, you're a resident, your family,
Right.
all around town, all around the area, you wanna.
Grandkids wanna come.
Some, yeah, so
they're
I think
great.
that would be at the top of the list to target.
Yes.
You know, and I there are some
I
people
mean,
here
I
would
don't
be
know,
very
like,
in favor.
What you guys feel about like just kind of sidestepping into it with like the water aerobics fee and waiving that, because I mean, I personally have felt like for 2 years it was unfair that stroke and turn was free, but water aerobics wasn't. You know, and so I do think that water aerobics like should have its turn to be free, you know, maybe for a year or whatever. And see, maybe more people will come and, you know, you never know, but
And it's for a clear demographic for what it's worth, and it's worthwhile.
yeah, I never thought it was fair that the other one wasn't a fee.
So are
But-
you,
But
Okay,
so I guess
so
I would make
is
an
there-
amendment to, only,
So you want to
Raise-
strike these,
stroke and, not the early morning
early
swim,
morning swim?
Yeah.
expenditure added.
Okay, so that's your amendment to strike early morning swim from the amendment.
yeah.
Is there a second on that?
Second,
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
What are we voting on, sir?
We're voting
your
on the
amendment to your amendment
To
is
strike.
to remove the
to
three
strike-
grand, from the early bird.
Shannon's amendment, yes.
Shannon's amendment.
Yes.
Okay, all in
Okay,
favor.
so now the amendment is just for the water rights. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Can I just ask one add-on question to this? Am I allowed?
Because we're
No, it's
voting
no,
now.
no, it's not about.
We done
the
though.
payment. Is at some point we need to talk about.
Okay,
We're going to.
No,
okay, all those in
you know
favor,
what I'm saying,
all those opposed.
and that's something.
Okay, we'll get to you later. Okay, now, are there any further amendments to the budget?
Hell, no.
The water aerobics was what number?
4,300.
No, the line item or the dollar?
One was 3,000 and the other
The water
was,
orbits was the 4,392.
439.
Gotcha.
4,300.
thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion on the motion to approve the budget as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, excellent legislating, everybody, congratulations. The next item is public hearing and consideration of a permit application for a building permit, wall permit, and fence permit submitted by Miriam Rosenthal and Michael Phillips for the property located at 5522 Greystone Street, and we will begin. Today is May 5th, 2025. This is a hearing before the Town Council of the Town of Somerset for the building permit application submitted by Miriam Rosenthal and Michael Phillips for the property located at 5522 Greystone Street. The applicants are applying to, number one, construct a new deck and steps at the left rear of the existing house. Second, to construct 2 retaining walls. Third, to construct 2 new fence gates. And 4, to construct several hardscape impervious features to the front, side, and backyard, along with conservation landscaping and installing several new trees and shrubs. The hearing will observe the following order. First, the Somerset Town staff will present their findings and submit for the record a report on the application under consideration. Next, the applicant will present the application or comment on the report. Next, the county council will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff relevant to the application at hand. Following that, other interested parties will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and present comments to the council. Next, if necessary, the applicant will have the opportunity for rebuttal testimony, after which the public comment period of the hearing shall be completed and the record closed. After that, the council will deliberate and discuss among themselves the merits of the case, the findings of fact, and conclusions. The council may make a motion on a permit decision. If any opposition is presented, the town attorney will be asked to write a decision, and the permit shall not be issued before the expiration of 30 days to allow time for an appeal. If no opposition is presented, the town manager will be asked to issue a permit. We will now begin with the presentation of the town staff findings and reports. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Background of this is in August 2024, Miriam Rosenthal and Michael Phillips, property owners of 5522 Greystone, filed a building permit application to the town of Somerset. I won't repeat what they're trying to do, as that will be discussed more, but if the permits are granted, the applicants plan to begin work as soon as they are able and expect to be completed in a couple months, July 2025. I sent out the required advance notice to neighbors 10 days prior to the hearing. Included in the packet in the meeting materials is the permit administrator's memorandum, the town arborist's street protection plan, the completed permit application, the notice into abutting and confronting properties, the hardscape plan, the stormwater management plan and the landscape plan and resident comments received by noon of April 2nd, 2025. And I wanted to make a note on the timing since this has been a long
So
application.
Matt Kovner is on the Zoom.
Primarily since this is has a lot to do with landscaping. There was a extended development of the stormwater management plan and then winter, and then there was a modification of the initially submitted plans. So that is why this had an unusual application timeline. And with that, I'll turn it over to our permit administrator, Steve Circo.
No questions, want to look at the report, or if you can bring it up.
I can share my screen.
Okay. So I tried to develop a new format here, but I hope to be used to the town council. Where I try to detail what are the criteria from our town code or from the county code that are of particular relevance to the project under review. So just go through, so we're looking at 5522 Greystone. It's a house that's recently had a building project, so it's a new house on the lot. It fills most of the allowable percentage of that lot, which we'll talk about in lot coverage, but this particular permit application makes no change to lot coverage. So that's more just give a little bit of perspective or background to the situation. Then we have what I refer to as the envelope. How well does the house and any additions or modifications of this application impact the front setback, side setback, rear setback requirements, and or the height of the house? Because as you all for the guests here, the town imposes a tighter constraint or limit on the vertical height of new construction projects. So in this regard, there are no issues with the envelope. We're pushing back a little bit towards the rear, but it's still well within the limits of the building or established building. I did discover something interesting while working on this project. All the houses on Greystone, perhaps at the lower parts of Essex and Cumberland that have property that touches Little Falls Parkway, county rules deem that the side of the house facing Little Falls Parkway has to meet front setback requirements. So in effect, 5522 Greystone has $400 and increases the setback. Fences and walls, they're installing some gates. I talked a little bit with the team that's doing the project. The town does not regulate pools directly. There are county regulations. I just make sure that they're aware of them. Main items are for safety. So for safety, they're installing the fences. So they now have complete coverage around the small infinity pool and hot tub in the rear. And the pool that they're planning to procure and install has an automatic cover as part of the county safety regulations. The walls are minor retaining walls. They're not cosmetic or decorative. They're just, it's a slow backyard. It's to hold the pool in place. Then we look at, stormwater drainage. So I'm kind of excited about this, the positive benefit of stormwater drainage. There are issues that this house has, as do many, I don't know what percentage, but many houses in Somerset have a clay soil. So clay soil does not allow the water to permeate into the soil to support stormwater drainage features like a rain garden. The soil fails the perk test. If you've heard about that, but like the county rain garden greenscape program. So what the applicant or the homeowners are proposing is an open tank, a tank in the rear that will pump water out to the front. And as I tried to indicate in the report, the drawings we received had that pump pipe going all the way out to the street. And we've heard the team said that's not permissible in the town. They keep going to our town right of way. Plus, we want the water to infiltrate as much as possible. So the piping will end on the applicant's property, and then any water that's coming out will go over at least 10 feet of the town right of way before it gets to the street. The net effect of this approach is positive because they size the system to handle the runoff from the roofs. Each do not currently have a stormwater system. The roofs are, so to handle that water from the roofs requires a larger tank, larger capacity system that would be required just to handle the runoff from the impermeable surfaces of the walkway. And the only other thing I want to comment on, conservation landscaping, top to quantify the benefit, because the soil conditions doesn't qualify for the rainscapes program, but still does provide some benefit. And I'm pleased to see it in there. And the architect who is here has agreed to modify the planting so that within the town's right of way, there will be no vegetation or plants installed that would grow higher than 12 inches. The town code has to be kept below 12 inches within the town right of way. That's it. Any questions?
You know, the questions are
I
later.
think that's next.
The questions are after the.
These next, and after that, with that, I'll turn it over to the town arborist, Dr. Feather, for the tree protection plan.
There's a tree protection plan and protecting, asking them to protect native street from the excavation. So they set up fencing 5 feet from the property line and 7.5 feet on the side of the tree. There's no tree removal at this point. We're also in discussions when they finish the plan to maybe install a public tree on the north side of the drive. That's all I have.
Thank you. That concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Now we will have the applicant and or our representative come forward.
Roof is leaking.
So you come to this, are you representing the rest of the
I think the landscape project.
Okay, so if you, are you gonna be commenting on the report?
And I'm gonna answer any questions that they have. I can't.
If you can come, if you can come to the, can you come to the,
The engineer is.
can you come to the podium, please, and identify yourself?
Okay, hi, everyone, good night, good evening, everybody, I'm Susie Alman, and I'm in charge of the landscaping part of the project, I guess. We have also the engineering part, the stormwater management, but I just came here to answer questions.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that, in regards to your, concern about tree, protection, we can install the tree protection once we start the installation, that's a no-brainer. Just, make sure that mature tree on, it's on the other side of the, will make a protection, yeah. We're aware of that tree, yeah.
And did you want to make any other comments on the report? Or you just want to answer questions?
Yeah, I'm here to.
Thank you very much. So if you could just stay there, that'd be wonderful. Okay, Council President Barr, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, no.
Councilmember Heller.
I have a question for Steve. I always wonder about this, when someone puts a swimming pool in their backyard. What happens when they drain the pool? These pools get drained. Where is that water gonna go? Is it going out to Little Falls? Or is it going out into on Greystone?
So, I'm actually, that's a great question. I assume the pool is piped into the.
Yeah, I can answer that question. It's not a built-in pool. It's not like an in-ground pool. It's, it's something that you purchase. It's like a jacuzzi and it's gonna be above ground.
Okay,
Okay, so and basically the water is not gonna drain because it's gonna just be cleaned like on a regular basis
some
with
point,
chemicals.
do you think it will
It works as
never?
a jacuzzi,
I
like
understand
a
that.
hot tub.
So you say it will never be drained, never, that might have to clean it out, something goes wrong, they gotta drain, somewhere along the line, they're gonna have to drain this pool. And all I wanna know is where's the water gonna go when they do?
I
It may
guess-
not be a regular thing, that's great. But somewhere along the line, that pool's gonna be drained, or whatever the word.
Yeah, okay, the water, I guess that it'll go, drain towards like the regular drain that the engineering people are suggesting. But the pool is gonna be closed all the time. It just has a pool cover. It's like a jacuzzi.
I
It's
understand,
called a pool, but because it has the system that when you swim, it has like a a stream,
Resistance.
yeah. That makes you swim.
right, I get it.
That's why it's called a pool, but it's such a big jacuzzi.
Yeah, but somewhere along the line, it's gonna be
Yeah.
drained, it has, someone's gonna wanna
But-
clean it.
But it goes, I think, I mean, I don't know anything about this, but I assume it's just like your toilet or your shower or
Yeah.
anything else.
It's
It
great
goes into
water.
the sewer.
Very big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what sewer is it going to?
Did you ever?
No, I'm not convinced yet about, is this water not going to impede the neighbors? Is it all of a sudden not gonna be coming rushing out to the street? Because one day it's gonna have to be drained. That's all. I know it.
Yeah, sorry, just to Debbie's question, there is it says a pump discharge pipe to public rights of way.
So wait until you.
Oh.
So why don't we wait till you're,
Okay.
did
No,
you have
no,
any?
I'm done. I'm done.
Okay, fine. Councilmember Kumar.
I do have some questions. Just to clarify, Steve, so this is in terms of your envelope, by the way, that was very, very good, very helpful, thank you. In terms of, it is not expanding the envelope the way you described it, as in the added hardscape doesn't change the existing envelope of the house. You see what I'm?
Right. The pool and the retaining walls of the pool are further back towards the rear of the house.
I see,
But not even close to the rear setback.
understood. So they are detached from the current house footprint, so they do not, okay, but they introduce new hardscape to the property homes.
Right.
Okay. And then, is there any hardscape, there's no hardscape being added to the front of the house?
There is a little patio.
Patio is being added to the front of the house. Okay, then, I had a question on the conservation landscape. That plan has been presented, it's been introduced, we have the plans, that's what was reviewed.
I brought copies just in case you wanna see.
Okay, and then the current front yard, the landscape has been unfinished for a period of time. Are there plans to finish that?
Yes, it
When?
was just, I guess that we couldn't, continue with the project. Because it was stopped because, it didn't have the permit or the, approval. But, it's gonna be all planted, I mean, it's gonna absorb water. Because there's not gonna be any grass, the homeowner, when we met like more than a year ago, she said, I don't want grass, I want plants, I am a retired person and I wanna just enjoy my garden. So there's plenty of plants there and we're gonna respect, the height. But it's all basically a lot of diversity, biodiversity in that, piece of land and talking about the beekeepers. And the 2 or 3 mile radius, every bird that is gonna attract there because it's mostly natives and we have records of, 70% of the plants being native. I've been working with the Brainscapes program for
I just want to clarify the timing. So
Mhm.
how would you explain to us?
So
It's already
basically,
May.
yeah,
Assuming you get
as
approval,
soon as you get approved, yeah,
you believe you can implement in a
Of
timely
course,
manner?
because, okay, so basically, the front can be done. And all the access to the backyard is gonna be on the right side, northern side, to do the, the platform. And the slate to put the pool, that can be accessed on the north side. So the front can be basically finished once it's approved.
Now, we received a fair bit of concern from the neighbors, in fact, every neighbor,
I know, yeah.
which
yeah,
I have,
I've
by
read
the way,
it.
in 4 years, never seen that.
Mhm.
And one key question was that the front, there's a lot of drainage to the front of the house. Front and side of the house, it's hard for me to orient.
Mhm.
Is that something that has come up in the reviews at all, or maybe that's a question to Steve? It's sort of front side to a garage, where there's a lot of water drainage happening now.
Yes, that's the problem, basically it's just dirt, so.
Because of the front yard being unfinished.
Yeah.
Got it, I see,
Like,
and clay. Okay,
So I did read they forwarded it to me, and the concern was about the construction, the house itself. It's done, and I guess that you approved it sometime earlier before the house was built. Now we're trying to basically beautify the property and have it like green again after construction. And both the contractor and I have been working in this county for the last years, and that's what we do. I mean, we just haven't been able to do it, but it's the intention of us to leave the area nice and we're looking at them.
Thank you. Councilor Rovak.
maybe this is for Steve. Okay, so when this house was originally done, it was before our time.
No,
Yeah.
no, we're here.
Really? And it was not a tear down, it was a revision on a house, right? And so it didn't follow the same rules. With Montgomery County, is my understanding.
No,
I mean, it was a
Just left
tear
up the
down,
chimney.
if I can
Yeah, we
answer, but
left.
it predates our height restriction.
Right, but also it wasn't, we didn't do a stormwater management plan for it.
Predates that as well.
And so, but Montgomery County does do stormwater management and to a certain extent, right? So like, I guess that was this plan original, like, has this plan been approved by Montgomery County?
The house or the.
The landscaping?
Please come to the.
Inclusive of the stormwater component.
Yeah, like,
The stormwater was created now by an engineering firm and he's assume if you wanna ask them about it, like the technicality of it.
I can answer that question.
Okay, sir, can you identify yourself?
Sure. This is Eric Tidd with Cass Engineering. We did the civil design on the project. The project, as it currently exists, is too small to require stormwater management from Montgomery County because its limits of disturbance is less than 5,000 square feet. A stormwater management plan nor a sediment control plan are not required in Montgomery County.
okay, and so when you guys did the house to begin with, was this what?
Montgomery County at the time, I believe, considered it. I personally did not work on the project at that time, but I believe it was handled as is considered an addition. And at the time, basically, I think what happened is the house, although there was some expansion in footprint, the significant portion of the project basically went vertical. So I think that's where a lot of the expansion was. And I believe at the time, there wasn't a stormwater management requirement for what they were trying to do.
Okay, because it just went up.
It substantially went up. There was some growth in horizontal directions, but the bulk of it was adding additional stories.
Okay, And so now, like, if this was if this was a house that was starting right now, what are the requirements for our impermeable surfaces? Like that would be, I mean, this is a,
So Montgomery County does not have a limitation on impermeable surfaces associated with any residential construction project. We would have gone through a very similar process as far as what our stormwater management design currently entails. Montgomery County does not condone the use of cisterns outside of municipalities. So it's possible that the county could have granted at least a partial, if not a full, stormwater management waiver based on the conditions of the existing soils.
got it, so they might have gotten a waiver.
Right, and then we still would have been subject to the town's requirements. So it's still possible that if there were something larger proposed that was subject to Montgomery County requirements, that we still would have what we currently have, not necessarily anything more. And I'll let you finish.
Oh, so now, like, do we have like a calculation of like what this stormwater management is for this and what they're doing for it?
So we made an assumption that all of the gravel paths were considered impervious. We came up with a square footage, and because trying to capture runoff from hardscape is difficult, we made a trade-off where it was significantly easier for us to capture runoff from the existing house, which is not currently being treated. So what we did is we came up with an equivalent roof area and are capturing downspouts, and those downspouts again will drain to the cistern and then eventually drain to the public right away. So there will be some uptake with the plants. So at some point it's probably a net benefit to the town. Now, I'm not an expert on how much those plants uptake. So in our eyes, it's just easier for us to just assume that there isn't any. It just makes the numbers a little bit easier to understand.
Okay, thank you.
And then if you guys don't mind, I'd like to just answer a few other questions that came up real quick. Pool discharge would have to go to the public sewer. Would not be permitted to discharge across any of the lawn spaces, either to adjacent public right of way or to private property. It cannot be piped to the public storm drain because of the chemicals that are in the water. That has to go to sewer. So presumably any company that's providing maintenance for the pool would be pumping it to the public sewer, directly into the public sewer.
How does that happen? I mean, where is the public sewer?
Hold on a second. I'm gonna have another round.
Right.
But did you have any other questions?
So then, okay, so basically, just so I understand, so in the front, because it's just dirt right now. And they're gonna put a patio and then like garden.
I've got a drawing here. The patio is minimal.
Excuse me, can you please use me, because we're recording this, we have to.
I've got a drawing here if you wanna see it. The patio is like closer to the house and it's just like an area, like the minimum area for seating for 2 people. And the rest is gonna be all landscapes. So basically when you're like walking in the streets, you're not gonna even be able to see the patio because it's gonna be like closer to the house. It's like a sitting area. It's not like a huge patio for entertainment. They don't have that. Okay. I brought a color plan. So here's a patio. And all this is landscape. Okay, I got a color plan.
Color plan?
Does that, excuse me, does that microphone, can she walk with that?
Yeah.
Can you please take the microphone off and use that?
You could zoom in the patio. I think that's fine. You can zoom in on the patio. This one is a little noisy. Yeah.
So the white is the present house, lane, okay, and here's the street. And this is the patio, and all these are only stepping stones, and in between the stepping stones, we have ground cover. So what I was trying to refer is that when you're walking here, when you're driving here, you're gonna just feel a garden here. And the patio is a secluded area, and it's either 10 by 10 here, and it's just communicated to the kitchen area, just a sitting area. Okay, so it's not gonna be like a big patio like you think about it in the back of the house. It's just a sitting area for two people here, okay? And there's like a big gap of green area. So that the patio is not gonna, and basically the waters that are the rainwater is gonna percolate into the garden.
Okay, and then are those trees on the side?
This here is evergreens for privacy, yeah.
And those are.
And those are
going-
not trees, they're like shrubs that are gonna grow 8 to 12 feet.
And those are not there right now.
No, they're not there. The only thing that's there is the neighbor has azaleas here and they're grown here, yeah.
And then what's the deal? So can you just walk through the backyard?
So the backyard, here there's like a walkway and here's like the in-ground pool. And this is an existing deck that is already built. And we're connecting the existing deck with new steps to like what they call a pool deck, but it's basically like a 3 or 4 feet wide corridor to access the pool, and then an area for them to change clothes and, you know, leave their towels and everything. And it's also like I think 11 by 11.
Wait, what do you mean? Like is this gonna have a roof?
No,
Like you just change out there?
no, it's just a patio. Like a place, because you, to leave your stuff, like to have like a pool.
It's a deck. It's a deck. Pool
Yeah.
deck.
A table and chairs, and you leave your stuff, and then you get into the pool, and then you get changed again, and, you know, just the towels.
And then what's all the other stuff on the side?
Here,
Yeah, all that.
all this is all gardens. There is like a Delaware gravel path to walk and to be able to garden around the area. And this is an area where underneath here, we have the cistern that the engineers are proposing. But on level, it's gonna be like an Asian garden, like pebbles.
Okay.
Delaware gravel that is also permeable. Okay, and all this is just plants and native trees and small trees. They're not like huge trees, like the tree that is existing here. It's gonna be just trees to give place for small birds
Okay.
and
Okay.
pollinators. Talking
I'm
about
gonna go
bees.
down.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
do you have
you.
any other questions?
Not right now.
Okay, I'm gonna go a second round because I didn't know that.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask one?
Of course. Well, let's wait. Can we wait till after?
Yes.
Or do you need to ask him there?
No, I can wait,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilor Khan.
Yes, thank you. So I mean, Steve, could you just clarify if could you just explain this sentence in your form there that says the stormwater management plan proposes to capture the runoff from an existing.
Can we have some quiet, please, then?
The stormwater management plan proposes to capture the runoff from an existing roof with 14% greater surface area than installed by this hardscaping project. Just explain that to me. I don't understand.
So just to make up the numbers, so if a hardscape is adding 1,000 square feet of impervious surface, the roof that they're planning to capture the water from is 1,140 square feet. It's an extra 14% more than what's there, and their seismic system to capture all of that water, so they're establishing a target that is larger than they would have to if they were somehow able to capture the water directly coming off of the walkway. But they can't, so this alternative capture technique to create an equivalent good or benefit to the town. And that's part of the code, is that that's the key. You compensate from one area or another. If need be.
Yeah, I mean, so let me understand this. Are we in a, so what you're saying is that based on this write-up that you provided, Steve, you are confident that they're adequately managing the runoff from the hardscaping on this property?
Yes.
Okay. Second question I had was, some of the neighbors have written in referring to the removal of trees originally at the time of construction. And there was an understanding, I mean, unfortunately, I don't have the documentation, that one or more of those trees were going to be replaced. Now, my question is, in that landscaping plan that you showed, where are those replacement trees for the ones that were cut down during construction? And are they like for like?
There was one tree that wasn't in good health, and that's why it was removed. That tree is going to be replaced by another native tree here. And eventually the county is going to bring another tree and it's going to be here. So there's going to be 2 trees. But originally there was only 1 tree. So now there's going to be 2 trees. But there's a bunch of other trees. We're talking about the front. This is going to replace the one that wasn't doing well. It wasn't in good health when they did construction, and that's why it was removed.
So let me understand this.
The owner is going to plant a tree, and then afterwards, after construction is done, because the construction, this is where I was trying to refer, that this is the area where the backyard is going to be accessed. So basically the front can be done immediately and the backyard can be accessed through here, to this side. Okay, when they finish the backyard, the new tree, the county is going to bring a tree here.
Sorry, you mean the county, you mean the town?
Yeah. Town.
The town is going to plant that tree
Yeah.
that over there to replace the town tree that was removed.
Yes.
You might want to second.
Sorry?
I want to second.
Doctor, yeah, I think it'd be just useful to, I wanted to clarify 2 things. One is the tree on the left, that your right, my left, yes. This seems to be in the town right of way.
It's in the, yeah, but it was in the town,
I
right?
understand that, but I think we have to, we need to be
We
clear
can push it
that.
further.
Yeah,
So that's an excellent point. So the town needs to explicitly direct or approve
that's
the
correct.
planting of a
Yes,
tree in
that's-
the town right away.
Yeah, that's why I want to come back to that later on. I just want to make that point. That's where the town tree, okay, so anyways, that's, I want to clarify that this new tree is going to be in the town's right of way. We need to come back to that. But does anybody have a record of what the conditions of this original permit were with respect to tree replacement?
Yes,
As.
so the original tree removal permit for the project is they removed a red maple and a dogwood, and then Dr. Feather at the time recommended planting an ornamental tree for the removed dogwood, and then the red maple be replaced by 2 ornamentals in the public right of way.
So is that what is being proposed here?
So we have now a tree that is an equivalent of a dogwood, which is a red bud. And if the town is recommending to plant 2 ornamentals instead of the red maple that was originally, then we need to find out a place for two, because we were in the thought that we were gonna do with two. Like, one is gonna be done with construction and one after construction. But there is space for two small trees on that side.
Dr. Feather,
For
is
small
that,
trees.
are these equivalent, Dr. Feather, or are they, I mean, what?
Dogwood and red, that.
Look, I don't know my trees from butterflies, so you'll have to explain what's going
Dr.
on.
Feather, can you come to the,
Yeah. Red maple is considered medium size. And the red pine and dogwoods are ornamental smaller trees. Okay, yeah.
Is that the text?
I think,
This is the reforestation plan.
From
I
August,
know- I have
from
no further
2021.
questions.
you're okay now?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay,
So,
Mr. Chen,
yeah,
We
just a
can
point
add-
of,
he got the question answered, so
Yeah.
thank you. Mr. Town Attorney, you have a question?
yes, and I would just state the previously approved permit and previously approved tree protection plans not being revisited tonight, so it still needs to be complied with as currently dictated. My question was for Mr. Circo, and for the council's benefit to understand my question, as noted in guidance issued by Montgomery County, sub pump discharges to the right of way are typically a last resort only. So Mr. Circo, as he indicates in his report, has gotten the applicant's agreement to terminate the pumped discharge from the pool in the front yard rather than in the street. And my question is, do you, Mr. Circo, have a recommendation as to where that termination should be, such as how many feet from the side lot line, how many feet from the front property line? And I would recommend that be specified because the town code requires a water drainage maintenance and inspection agreement to be recorded in land records. And our form agreement refers back to the approved plan. So it is the approved plan that needs to be maintained in perpetuity. And I would recommend that that plan specify where that termination is. So the decision can reference a specific distance, and also I would suggest that the approved site plan be revised to reflect that termination point.
One quick clarification, so the pumping, the discharge pump is discharging from the cistern, not from the pool.
Yes, thank you.
Or from the
Yes.
main. And I had discussions with Eric of Cast Engineering, and they're ready to redo the plans. There's one, instead of going through further iterations, and because of the time site to get ready for this meeting, they didn't make those changes yet, but yes, they will update the drawings. And I can provide a specific estimate. I don't recommend the distance. I don't have that available. I will.
Okay, is that true?
Yes, yeah,
Is that your question?
that's my question, and just for the council's benefit. So instead of the cistern discharging to the street, it would discharge to the front property so that water would be allowed to sheet flow. Discharges to the street are disfavored because they can result in icing hazards. So, to avoid an icing hazard, the sheet flow would be allowed. And the question for the council is, how much sheet flow would be mandated, because if the termination is only 1 foot from the front property line, then it's perhaps not much benefit, but and also you're dealing with a site plan that shows the pipe running close to the side lot line. So, that was a concern of mine.
Can I jump in real quick? This is Eric with Cass Engineering.
Yes.
So we intend to modify the plan at Steve's request to pull the discharge pipe 15 feet back from the front property line, and we'll include a note and/or dimension indicating as such. And we'll also include a note that says that discharge must be directed towards the public right-of-way and away from adjacent private uses. Hopefully that satisfies what you guys are looking for.
So, Mr. Johnson, what are you saying? Is that
Yeah,
acceptable?
thank you, Mr. Tidd. So right now, the plan shows the pipe, approximately 2 or 3 feet from the side property line. would you, in order to accomplish a discharge away from the neighboring property, as you've just said, are you going to dogleg the pipe towards the front yard a little bit, or what?
We could we could certainly show that. Again, I mean, it's at some level, it's a 2D representation of a whole bunch of 3D work. So it can be difficult to show exactly how that gets run. But we can graphically show it in a way that I guess further emphasizes where that should be directed, if that satisfies that request.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not an engineer, but I'm just visualizing maybe a 45-degree turn.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
at some level, the equipment that's going to be needed to install it, they're not going to physically be able to install it, very close to the property line because obviously we don't want to encroach on anybody's property. So we tried to show it in an area where it was just clearly visible and separate from where the walk is. But yes, we will make sure that that's graphically clear.
All right, and not to flog a dead horse now, but we've got a landscape plan now showing a front garden. Have you considered where the discharge might be in relation to that garden?
Well, based on conversations with Steve, because that sort of the request to relocate that discharge point kind of came up towards the end, we will work with the landscape architect to ensure that there is a path for that discharge, so that there's no ponding.
Thank you.
Is that
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that answers my
okay?
question.
So because I don't think the council was aware that the gentleman from Cass Engineering was here, I'm going to do another round. President Barr, do you have any questions?
I have a couple of questions, yeah. I did read that your clay soil is not very kind to planting. So I gather you are changing the soil to depth of 8 inches for presumably more fertile soil and more permeable soil. In turn, that will then capture much more water, right? Okay. So
For Montgomery County, rules, we mix the clay soils with leaf growth, with the compost, half and half, and we till the soils twice, so that the first 9 inches of ground is percolating into the ground, so the roots grow there, thus amending the soils makes it eventually.
right, so the plants will grow much more readily and water will also be captured much more readily. Both things will happen.
Yes, that's conservation landscaping, and that's for Montgomery County laws.
Guidance on it, yes, right. The other point, which is quite different, is you're saying that this work is going to take approximately 2.5 months to complete, starting in August, finishing in October.
No, not starting in August.
When are you starting it?
Okay, if you're going to testify, you need to come and identify yourself.
I had,
Bruce, are you here?
Who's going to answer the question?
Bruce?
Whoever's going to answer the question needs to be on the
Bruce
recording
Allentuck.
and
The
identify themselves.
contractor. The contractor, I guess that we haven't scheduled start, but he has committed to,
He's on,
once we
right?
start to do, all what we can do to do, finish, start and finish.
so.
So this is Bruce Allentuck. I can answer that question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. We intend to start within 2 weeks of your approval.
And is 2.5 months roughly the time that you expect to take to finish it?
I believe that's accurate.
All right. I'm going to comment that the house itself had multiple permit extensions. And I'm trusting when you say 2.5 months, you're confident that it is only going to be 2.5 months. What could go wrong in that is really what I'm asking.
The largest thing, well, there are 2 things that could go wrong. One would be weather, which we haven't really had an issue with this year. I can't predict the future. And two would be availability of the swimming pool. But that doesn't really impact the rest of the work.
All right, so it is a much more controlled development in this case. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Heller.
Just a couple of questions. One of the things that you said, when you referred to the pool, you called it an in-ground pool. You said earlier it was above ground.
Above ground.
So that was just misspoken. Okay.
Yeah.
The patio, you're talking about, isn't it there already? Because I've been by the house, drive by it, and there seems to be some sort of patio, and that's the patio. Okay. And the big trees, I can't remember what kind you said they were. They're gonna be like tall for privacy on the,
Shrubs, yeah, evergreen shrubs.
okay, that's not a shrub, an evergreen is not a shrub, that's a tall plant, right?
Evergreen means that it's not deciduous, that it keeps its leaves throughout the
Okay,
year.
they're pretty tall.
No, not all of them. Broadleaf evergreens can be 6 to 8 feet tall. The ones that grow very tall are the conifers. They're also called evergreen, but broadleaf evergreens can be 6 to 8 feet. So
Okay, that's what's going there.
yes.
So,
Yeah, we're not.
so it's not in any way going
conifers.
to affect the neighbor's light or anything.
No,
Okay.
we're not planting their big conifers that would
Okay.
basically be huge and interfere with the
Okay,
aesthetics of the neighborhood.
okay, that's all I have.
Councilor Kumar.
I have a question for Steve. Steve, I'm struggling to understand why, as proposed, this does not extend the envelope of the house. So I don't know, EJ, if you can put up the page 14. Basically, it connects with the house. Everything that's been proposed effectively connects with the house. Hardscaping that connects with the house. So from my read of it, at least in the back, it is extending into the setback. And on the side, it's extending into the setback. If I read this as extending the house.
But also perhaps the town attorney can answer that.
Yeah, I'm opening up the code right now, Mr. Mayor. Generally speaking, setbacks apply to buildings and their projections.
Yes, we changed the code to include all projections. These are effectively projections. And the patio may be pre-existing, but everything else is a projection from the house.
So I would not refer to a patio as a
The
projection.
patio already exists,
What about the pool?
but everything else is a projection from the house. You know, and extends the footprint of the house as per the definition of in the code. Patio is new, patio exists or is new? Is the patio a new patio or is it an existing patio that's been with new stones?
It's gonna be a new patio.
It's a new patio,
Yeah.
okay.
But
All right.
as far as I know, there is a 8 foot here that is being respected. It's being there's an 8 foot restriction line here. So the patio is inside of that line
On the side.
towards the house, towards the inside.
All I'm saying is that all of this is a protrusion from the house, all of it. And it extends the footprint of the house as a result, and is subjected to our variance requirements as per the footprint of the house. So the back extends well into the rear setback, the front extends well into the front setback, and the side extends well into the side setback. So when I remember I asked you earlier why you were not counting this and extending the envelope. I probably phrased it incorrectly, but that's what was on my mind, is that this fits within how we define protrusions from the house. It's clearly protruding from the house, hardscape, extensive hardscape, protruding from the house.
So that
I don't think it's actually answering that.
the code excludes from the definition of projections things that are built at or below grade, like window wells and patios. I want to look at,
Can you read that section out?
yes, yes, indeed. So the definition of building at section 112-2 says a building includes any permanent structure, whether a main or accessory structure, having one or more stories and a roof, designed primarily for the shelter, support, or enclosure of persons or property of any kind, and including all parts of the structure, including but not limited to projections, elements, appurtenances, and equipment that is or are attached or located within 10 feet of a building surface. Building excludes projections, elements, appurtenances, and equipment that is or are constructed at or below grade, such as a window well or patio.
Okay, so the patio is potentially excluded,
Yes,
but nothing else fits the definition of patio as was proposed here.
so yeah, I'm looking at the site plan now. And what do we have above grade apart from the pool? And the pool's distance to the house is it more or less than 10 feet?
It's like 4 feet, 6 feet from the deck.
So it's within the,
And
But a pool is not a construction. I mean, and the patio is not a construction. We're not having mechanical installations or lighting or a permanent structure.
I appreciate that. I was just trying to stay true to the code. We define the patio in the code, but we don't define the other elements. And by my reading of the code, they are protrusions from the house. And Steve was on the council, we changed the code, particularly so that we had the ability to decide whether certain protrusions made sense.
And this pool does get
Hold
electricity.
on. So have you got your questions answered?
I want an affirmation for my line of thinking before I subject us to more pain.
well, I think the council would be required to interpret the code to determine whether the proposed pool is a projection or not. And one precedent I can think of, the case that resulted in the code being amended, there was a microbial retention facility that was attached to a house, and the council determined that should be deemed a projection. So that may help the council in making its decision tonight on the proper interpretation.
And
You don't think. Council member Rovak, do you have any questions? Further questions?
I don't.
Councilor O'Connor,
Nothing further, thank you.
you're done, okay. So, let me go back to my script here. So we will now open the floor for public comments. We ask that those.
Say one more thing. This is Miriam Rosenthal at 5522 Grayson Street. First of all, I wanted to point out that it's already come up, but that there was no storm management in place when we put up the house. And if we just put down sod, it would be done, there's a whole thing. But now we're getting all these plans, and we're also getting a water management plan that includes the house. So you're getting the water management plan that was not, there before. There's a lot of plants. Susie can list how many plants, there were. And then as far as the pool, or the spa or whatever, we'd love to have it, but we'd also like to go forward with the project. So, if that's like a stumbling block, we can get rid of that. But it's something that I thought I would enjoy. So, that's what that's in there for. And what the hardscape is, and also with the town tree, the town tree was, decided on by the arborist, and that was taken down because it was sick. And so any of the things on the right of way were determined by the town, to get rid of, or, that they were hazardous. And so, we really like to move forward. We're sorry that it's taken so long, and,
So thank you, Ms. Rosenthal. So I just want to let you know that after the public comments, you'll have an opportunity to rebut or respond. And thank you so much. So as I said, we will now open the floor for public comments. We ask that those making comments, please be respectful of the council's time. Keep all testimony and evidence relevant to the application at hand, not be repetitive. And we hope you will limit your comment to one each and try to be brief. And so with that, who would like to go first? Please come over here and identify yourself and your street.
Judy Loper. I have a question.
And you, what street?
What?
What street do you live on?
Grantham. I live around the corner. I don't understand the drainage. It's going to be piped toward Greystone on the north or south side.
So who's gonna answer that?
Steve or Eric?
The south side of the driveway.
The south side of the driveway or
Here,
the
pull up
south
the
side
site
of
plan.
the house?
Oh, that's kind of.
Never mind, just got it.
This one is here.
And what's gonna prevent it from going to the neighbor or out and flooding the street? That I don't understand how you can be so sure. First of all, the pump's going old, but how does it get all the way up there and not go in all directions? It's water. I don't understand how you could be so sure that that whole area isn't going to be flooded.
Eric, could you answer that maybe? I feel like.
Sure, Eric Tidecast Engineering. The existing topography of the front yard drains towards Greystone, not directly towards the neighbor. But also we will physically turn the pipe, as suggested earlier in this meeting, show a bend or something in order to direct that discharge further away from that side property line, that common property line, and out towards Greystone. So it shouldn't, there shouldn't be any instances of where that water backs up and impacts the property to the south.
Did you want to ask a follow-up?
That the water will reach the street, will it not?
Yes, it will reach, that's the intent, yes.
That's a lot of water, isn't it?
The discharge is like a sump pump. So it would be what's the word I'm looking for? Not continuous, but intermittent. But yes, it will drain to the street.
Thank you.
Is anybody else?
I'm Nancy Sussman, I live across the street on Greystone Street. I have a few comments.
You.
Speaking with the mic.
Can't hear you, Nancy.
I think that when you look at this plan, particularly seeing it in color, you can see the amount of hardscape in the front yard. The patio is almost a small portion of the hardscape, given the size of the driveway and the apron there. So I thought the way it was presented as sort of a minimal kind of addition to the landscape plan. It looks very different. You see it in color, and you can see that the proportion of green to pavement.
given that I'm across the street, I'm not as interested in what's going on in the backyard as long as, the drainage doesn't become an issue. But in the front, I'm trying to think about another 2.5 months of construction after this has gone on for years. And I'm wondering if one thing the town could maybe do is try and get the construction access from Little Falls instead of from Greystone Street. Because right now the gravel on the north side of the house, which will be the construction access to the backyard.
Well, why don't you,
And it's
let's see
right
if
in
let's
front.
see if the engineer can respond to that idea.
I mean, it's the only thing I can think
So
of.
let's
that would
let,
minimize
let's let
the
the,
impact.
let's let the engineer or somebody respond.
Sure. Eric Tidcast Engineering again. The Little Falls Parkway is owned by Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, their Parks Department. And although we did not specifically ask that question, I believe all that offsite area between the paved right-of-way and the property line is considered forest. It is, and if that is the case, then it would be highly unlikely that they would permit access from that paved right-of-way into the rear yard. The least impactful from an environmental standpoint, though certainly neighbors may feel otherwise, is Greystone Street.
There have been other instances with, I think, major tree work that was done where access was offered at Little Falls.
Sure, I'm sure that there are extenuating circumstances for some projects. Again, we did not specifically ask that question, but I would see it highly unlikely for a project of this size for parks to grant that permission.
Well, that's the only thing I can think of that would minimize the impact on all of us that have been living with this for years.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that wanted to comment? Is there anyone? Okay, so now,
I do have, can
of course,
I, sorry. I do a lot of things about this. So when the building plan was proposed, it was proposed with a landscaping plan. Doesn't what the town approved include the development plan for the project? Why, this has taken so long? Why is it that there was consideration of the design and now we have a whole other process dealing with the landscape? Why
well,
is it
let's
this
let
done
the
in
town
one
attorney
period of
answer
time?
that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at the prior file now. I do not believe a landscape plan was made a condition of the prior approval.
So it was approved without a landscape plan.
I believe that is
And the town-
correct,
And
yes.
the town has no requirements that like construction projects can only go on for a certain length of time. They can only be
Permits
extended
can,
again and again. How many times?
there's no limit on the number of extensions. A permit can be granted, but the council does have discretion to exercise in granting extensions. I mean, of course, common sense dictates you gotta allow a project to be completed. So some of the incentive that the council does have the ability to impose is short durations for the extensions because there is a cost to extend a permit. There's a cost to the applicant for that and for continued construction and the like as well. It's not a perfect system.
Well, I mean, I guess I would say that we all just want this done as soon as it can be done. But the pain in the meantime, if it can be minimized in some way, especially considering the construction. And access is side of the house, between their house and the house is.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, so now the applicant has the opportunity to present rebuttal testimony. Testimony that has not been introduced previously and that directly responds to the public comments. So I would recommend that you respond to all the public comments. And anybody from the applicant, thank you.
I don't remember all of them, but I do remember what you just said. And I would say that, the building of the house was completed, so that permit was closed, that's done. So that's been done for a while. And this landscape thing, I didn't realize that we needed the water management plan because that came in later, and that's why it required this water management with the hardscape that went in with the landscaping. And so that got, stop work order was put on in August, and so that's what happened. And then we have the engineers make the water management plan, and so it meets all of the water requirements. And I think it's safer to work from Greystone than from Little Falls, just in terms of the safety, for the public. That's just my opinion, because Greystone is not as heavily trafficked as Little Falls. So, and the engineer said that that was not really a viable option, in his opinion. Or you could pursue that, but I don't think that's really that viable. I think, I don't know if there was anything else.
Okay, thank you. So this concludes the public portion of the hearing. The record is now closed. The council may now discuss and deliberate on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, and may vote on the application. And I will turn it over to the council president to lead the discussion and possible decision.
Right, thanks. I think, first of all, we want to consider what Kabir was bringing up earlier, which is whether I guess it's the pool would be considered a projection from the house, and therefore perhaps a variance might be required. That's really what your point was, right?
Yes, I mean, I was just wondering, if you look at what's the materials we've been given, deck and the hardscape impervious features, that's the language.
Right, the hardscape doesn't is on the ground only.
Ground level.
And therefore that does.
So that was my question, was that's at grade.
Yeah.
So then really what's left is
The pool.
the pool. And I only bring it up not to make our lives harder, but it is in the code, and we did it so that we will be able to look at these things and decide if it was sensible.
Where are we on that? What others think? Should the pool be considered a projection of the house and therefore perhaps variance required?
I have a sense of what this pool is now. And as long as it can drain, that it doesn't impinge on the neighbors or give us a flood, I'm okay for it. It's more like a hot tub. I know what this is, and I don't think it's our place to veto it. It's not a big pool, it's not an underground pool, it's not all that. So I just think we should let it go.
All right, Alan?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just concerned about the water, and like I can't see like how the water doesn't get to that house next door when you're like looking at the house on the right.
So this was really on whether we should consider the pool as a projection, or whether you agree with Debbie perhaps that it's small and we should just let it go. Because we can talk about the bigger issue on water in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, because we had the whole thing that came up about this house with all the balconies too, like, it just, every little component just keeps adding up, so, I don't care,
All right, okay, and Rohit.
Yeah, we're talking about the pool, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Ron can clarify. I'm just reading the definition that you were reading earlier. You're talking about under 112.2 definitions for building?
Yes.
Because it says they're having one or more stories and a roof. So once we say and a roof, the rest of the sentence regarding projection elements, appurtenances, and equipment is not really relevant to this because I'm assuming this pool doesn't have a roof.
So the house has a roof.
Yeah.
So the house is a building. The house is subject to setbacks. And those setbacks also include projections from the house. So, a front porch, a bay window, a chimney, those would all be projections from the house that would have to satisfy the setbacks as well. So the question for you to decide, is the pool, since it is above grade, a projection or an appurtenance from the house or not?
So let me just ask this: if this were not a pool, but a deck, an above ground deck, what would its status be?
Yeah, the deck would be a projection.
Oh,
We have some exemptions for cornices, eaves, and handicap ramps, I believe. So those exemptions. And while I'm looking for that,
I understand more now, I guess, and I think that it is then a projection of the house.
It is by the definitions we have.
Yeah, if you're going to treat it the same way, to me, mentally, it's like a deck, then the same rules should apply.
How about, I mean, if it were an in-ground pool, the rule wouldn't apply, right?
But
correct.
It isn't. It isn't.
Yeah, but I mean,
Careful what you wish for.
It isn't.
yeah.
Yeah, so we amended the code to expressly say steps, stoops, decks, terraces, porches, bay windows, oriel entrances, vestibules, balconies, outside stairways, chimneys, and similar projections may not project into any required setback. Cornices and eaves can project 2.5 feet.
It was a Zerko creation.
Air condi-
Is it possible to add something real quick? This is Eric with Cass Engineering.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
So that is, I mean, we can interpret it differently if we wanted to, but it's hard.
All right, well, we can certainly say that, and so that the either is a variance is required for the pool, or we can approve it without the pool, which seemed to be indicated by the owner. And they can come back and add the pool later as an in-ground pool, perhaps. That can be done too.
Does it mean that they have to redo the plan for the backyard? If they take away the pool, we're gonna be back here again?
Yeah, well, what I'm very sensitive to is the residents want this finished.
I agree.
And trying to get to that point is what I'm trying to do.
But
And
on the flip side of this, we open up another construction year. Again, we could be in multi-month, multi-year process with extensions. We've gone through it already. We cannot control it. You know that.
Right.
So I also want to, the other way to look at this is to constrain the scope of it. That is probably the best way to expedite this, ultimately, in a factual manner, not in any judgment manner. I have no,
right, but
just in a
isn't that
factual
what we're
way, there's
doing?
less to do, it's gonna go faster.
But if we remove the pool, isn't that constraining the scope?
I believe it is.
No, so just if we are going down the path that this above ground pool is an extension of the house,
Yeah.
what is the implication? It needs a variance.
For it to continue as proposed, it would need to be subject to a variance
And that would
hearing.
require another application?
That would require a variance application, a variance fee, a variance hearing, additional costs to the town as well.
So what I'm suggesting is that we approve it without the pool, so that work can begin, and we leave it to the owner whether or not to come back with a variance request in the pool, or just leave it as is.
Is that your motion?
Well, I'm trying to feel whether there's,
Well, you said approve as is without the pool.
Right.
I'm fine with the second half of your sentence. I have a problem with the first half of the sentence, which is the as is part, because I've got a number of questions on other elements that I'm not entirely sure have been fully answered.
Let's go through those.
Yeah, I think the whole question of tree replacement. I don't think that's been fully answered, or it's not entirely clear what we are asking for and what the owner would agree to, right? That screenshot that the town manager showed earlier said an ornamental tree would need to replace the removed dogwood, and the red maple needed to be replaced with 2 redbud trees. In the infinite wisdom of the council, the decision was that those 2 redbud trees would be planted in the town's right of way, which I have some concerns about. I don't think we should be agreeing to have trees planted in the town right of way. I think it requires a license or something and all of that stuff according to the code. And so I'm not in favor of that. But I think the bottom line is I would like to have a better understanding of what we're doing regarding the tree replacement, which was the understandings reached earlier. Secondly, I think if I understood correctly from one of the gentlemen on the call, he said that there's going to be a revised plan for the discharge from the pool. So if the owner does come back with a variance request of the pool, I would like to just understand what what are we expecting on the revised plan. I also want to point out that one of the comments from one of the neighbors made references to property line issues. I don't know whether Steve or somebody else, or maybe the town attorney could clarify if there are any issues there that need to be still resolved. I think a general point that
Why don't we?
yeah.
So
So the last point I'll make is
hold on,
that
Councilor. If you had a question,
town attorney regarding the property line issues. One of the neighbors has raised that.
Yeah, he said he couldn't be here today.
Yeah, and that seems to be a pretty critical thing that we'd like to get some advice. I would like to get some advice on before we approve anything. I contacted Mr. Phillips to complain of this planned intrusion. However, that such a blatant flaw was included in their final plan raises the question of how many other problems are, etc., etc., etc. But there is this unanswered question about property lines and where things are.
I can answer that.
No. So that's another that's the last point I'll make is this, I appreciate the fact that Steve has clarified that he's confident about the water runoff issue, and I certainly trust his judgment a lot. I think that someone referred to the fact that this is like a sump pump, and I would like to understand better that if this is like a sump pump, where is this water going, on whose property, which property is going to be the most affected by water coming out of that tank, that cistern. So I've got a number of issues here with this. When you say as is, I'm not 100% sure that as is. I'm comfortable with the proposal here.
Well, let's turn to Dr. Feather first on the tree issues, and the question really is: are you, Dr. Feather, you've reviewed the plan for landscaping? Do you think that is an appropriate plan for trees on the property?
So we have to reopen the record, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, we can't. You can't have any testimony.
Oh,
Well, unless you reopen.
let's reopen the record then.
Okay, you have a motion.
Motion to reopen the record to address the question.
Is there a second?
All right.
Is there
all-
discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so the way this goes is that if we reopen the record, that Dr. Feather, you can ask questions, and then we have to go through the whole council
Okay.
for questions, and then the public has the opportunity to comment.
All right.
So
All right.
go ahead.
Dr. Feather, have you reviewed the landscape plan for the property?
Yeah.
And do you believe that the trees in it are appropriate?
What they have on the plan is a ornamental pine, a magnolia, and a redbud in the right of way. I think I haven't looked at the original reports for the tree removal.
That's what I'm looking at right now,
But
Dr.
I
Feather.
asked for ornamental trees, not specifically that, kind of thing. Now, one extenuating circumstance is the reason they're ornamental trees and not canopy trees, if there's overhead wire on that side of the street. That's always going to be three-way chance. If there was a canopy tree planted there by the town, it would have to be next to the property lines or a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's my questions. Other councilmen.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hella, any questions?
No, I don't think.
Councilmember Kumar,
Thank you.
Councilmember Rovak,
No.
Councilmember Conlon.
Yeah, okay, so if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that the replacements being proposed are consistent with what was required at the time the permit was given for this construction.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Also, I think they was bonded, and they, of course, they haven't planned anything for that. Bonded. That's when we actually check and see what's.
So,
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give Dr. Feather a copy of the 2021 report, because it seems to me that there were supposed to be 2 redwood trees in the right of way.
It does say that.
So the point that I raised during the hearing, Mr. Mayor, was that the tree reforestation plan is not subject to revisitation this evening, that the prior conditions remain conditions unless the applicant is requesting that they be modified. So the prior recommendation was planting of an ornamental tree for the removed dogwood, such as a dogwood, redwood, or serviceberry, and then 2 redbud trees replace the red maple in the public right-of-way.
well, since we've reopened the record, don't you want to ask the applicant that question?
Well, certainly, Mr. Mayor, my point is that's what's required. So if the applicant's requesting something different, the applicant needs to seek a modification.
So the applicant will have a chance to rebut.
Okay, and I will say, the interest of completeness, the permit does not expressly reference the arborist's report, so we have to go to the minutes or the transcripts or the recording of the hearing to verify that it was imposed exactly as recommended by Dr. Feather.
So you go to the recording of the earlier hearing.
To verify that the condition was exactly as Dr. Feather stated. Typically it is, so I'm 99% sure it would be, but just note that. So I've got a copy of the permit here and it doesn't say comply with.
Could that be a contingency in the decision, or do we?
Yes, it could be, Mr. Mayor, yes, good
Okay.
point.
Does the council understand that? Okay, so, where's it? Councilor Kumar, you're up. You had not, you had no question. I think
That's it.
Councilor Conlon, you had a question also. You have the ability now to ask your question about the lot line.
The property line
Yeah,
question.
because I think that the applicant's representative wants to answer that.
Yeah, the neighbor,
Please come to the, thank you.
yeah, it just, the colored one shows, all the trees are within the property line. The, confusion was that this is the existing fence, so the plants were usually against the fence, but we, moved them so that they're within the property line, and we did the same thing in the back. So everything is within the property lines right now. So that's the question to that neighbor. Because that was like right before, we were going to meet in April. I mean, now we're in May, but, this was gonna be done, the first week of April. And we did that amendment after the neighbor complained. So, here's the property line, everything is within their property line and here's the fence. So there's gonna be like a void area there. of 3 or 4
Okay,
feet.
so you amended the plan
Yes.
based on this feedback
Yes,
from.
yes, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, between the time that we were gonna meet, to apply, at the beginning of April. And today, it's a month, and it's already done.
Unfortunately, there's no date on the comments from the resident, the neighbors, so I don't know when they wrote it.
It was like April 3rd, it was right before we were supposed to be here.
What's the
The Friday
neighbor's
before
name?
the Monday.
Borders.
So does the,
Okay, I don't have that one.
Are you,
That was addressed. And it's neighbor on the left side, on the southern side.
Okay, and then my last question was, I think, I don't know whether you referred to give this example of a sump pump. That it's something similar to a sump pump, water coming out. Where on that, could you just show the diagram, where is this sump pump like water coming out?
Okay, I would let that to the engineer.
Can you-
because,
can you
I'm not
please
standing
use the-
there.
can you,
Can do that design.
okay, is the engineer, is Mr.
Yeah, yes, Eric Tibbs still here.
Thank you.
So the discharge point as shown or as will be amended on the plan after this meeting it's on the south side of the property. It is between the two homes, but it is 15 feet behind the public right of way. At the suggestion of one of the council members earlier in the meeting, we will show a turn at the discharge point to ensure that that water does not negatively impact any privately owned adjacent residential property.
Right here. Right here. That's what, Eric is trying to say.
There, to be clear, 15 feet from the.
Front.
From the front property line, correct.
So in this area, on the patio, on the corner of the patio, should be this structure.
and then it'll drain to the street.
Correct.
But it's intermittent, what he's saying is it's not gonna be like a constant flow, it's like a sample.
But how much? How much will come, when it pumps it out, how much is gonna come out? I mean, it could be a gallon, it could be 5 gallons, it could be 10 gallons, what would this amount be? And should
Okay.
the neighbor living at 5520 be
So
concerned?
most of the water is contained by the cistern. And then the overflow of the water, as I understand it, Eric, and please correct me if I'm wrong. The cistern is capturing most of the water and that water is percolating into the ground. But only the overflow of the water, if that cistern basically.
No,
gets
that's not
filled.
right.
No. So
Gotta de-water.
the underground tank will hold the water until it is discharged via a pump.
And how much will
I-
that pump discharge?
What will the cycles be? That's what you're asking? That I don't know off the top of my head. I can research that and get that information to you.
Mr.
But
Kidd, I
again,
think he's
that-
asking what would the max volume of discharge be at any one time?
Yes.
So that's
Right, so that's-
basically
yeah,
the
so that's-
capacity of the cistern. Right.
I don't know. I don't know what the cycle would be. I don't know if they would if it's
No, not
set
the
up-
cycle,
Not
the
the cycle,
volume.
the
I
amount.
Well,
Volume.
the total volume is 1,700 gallons, I believe.
No, the volume of the discharge, when it is pumped out.
1,700 gallons.
You'll get a chance. Okay, is your question getting
But
answered?
it pumps it out over time, over a longer period of time, like 48 hours.
I understand that, but in one go, how much is gonna come out?
Okay.
I don't
think it's
have
kind of
that
important
number.
for the neighbor next door. I really think it is extremely important for the neighbor next door to know how much is gonna come out of that pump in one go.
Oh, yeah, so
I do not have that information, but again, that outfall is not directed towards that neighbor's property.
Do we have the engineering plans, because most of the cistern is cut from the water? I mean, I saw the plans.
I understand what you're saying, that most of the water goes in the cistern. I understand the question of how much is going to be in the cistern. I understand, I'm just simply asking that when that cistern reaches its limit, and like a sump pump, it pumps it out, I just want to know how much water is coming out of that pump at that time. It's a
They don't know.
If you don't know the answer, that's fine, but that's my concern at this point, is I would like to know how much water is going to be pumped at any given time onto that corner of that.
Okay, well, they don't have an
No,
answer.
the answer, yeah,
Okay.
it's fine, that's okay.
Okay, Council President, okay, I'm gonna go another round, because remember, you can ask a question of the applicant or the staff. Council
Right.
President Barr.
Yeah, okay. As I understand the way cisterns work, there's a delay usually after the storm is finished, and then they pump.
Please
maybe-
ask that as a question.
The question will come. And there's usually like a 24-hour delay, so it's being pumped when there is no other water coming from the sky, it's usually. It's being pumped through roughly a 4-inch pipe, I think. My question is whether that rate can be controlled by the pump to reflect the conditions on the ground in front of it, so you can have more or less water coming out. That's the question.
That I don't know. I'd have to do more research into the pump itself to figure out how that cycle works and what control is available.
All right. No.
Okay, Councilor Howell, give me.
If we're not asking too much.
No,
Now,
you have
again, the
to,
question, are we asking too much? Is it realistic to govern the water like we're talking about? Now, if we had a big in-ground pool and they're pumping their water out, well, that's a good question. But right now, it sounds like what we're really talking about is the rain and how much of it, and how much can the sump pump handle in the cisterns? So are we being realistic as we ask you these questions to the engineer and to Steve?
Excuse me, this is Bruce Allentuck. I just looked up the discharge of the pump. Can I answer your question?
Yes.
Please continue.
Okay. This pump that we'll be using discharges at 17 gallons per minute at 50 pounds per square inch. It's anywhere between 13 and 16 gallons per minute.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes, this pump discharges 1.25 inch pump, anywhere between 13 and 17 gallons per minute.
Okay, thank you.
did you?
No.
Okay, Councilmember Kumar, do you have any further questions?
No further questions.
Councilor Rovak,
No question.
Councilor O'Connor.
No further questions, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna open again the floor for public comment, but the comments are limited to any of these latest issues. So does anyone, we don't need anything repetitive, so. Does anyone have a question or comment?
Can I ask a question?
No.
This is Eric with Cass. Can I ask you a question about the pool, or are we beyond that?
Who's the question to?
I guess it would be a general question, but I guess more specifically to the question to the gentleman who was asking about whether or not a variance would be needed. So the question is if the pool even.
So you're answering a council member's question, right?
Right, as to whether or not a variance would be needed.
Okay, so who was it?
That was Kabir.
That was Councilor Kumar's question. Please
Okay.
respond.
So the question was whether or not it was considered an addition to the house because it's within 10 feet. I guess my question would be, or rebuttal would be, if it complies with the main building setbacks being 8 feet from the side, 20 feet from the rear, and not in the front of the house, if a variance would be needed, if it is considered an addition to the house.
If it was relocated in compliance with all setbacks, a variance would not be required.
So the question is if it currently is shown meeting those setback requirements, is it moot as to whether or not it is an addition to the house or not?
Well, that's for the town attorney.
Well, does it comply with setbacks currently? I thought the testimony was it does not. What is this?
The location of the pool is 12.5 feet from the south property line, 25.1 feet from the Little Falls Parkway, and 50 plus feet from the north side property line.
Okay, did you get your question answered, Mr. Tanner?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So,
Well, I guess we need to confirm whether it does or does not comply with current setbacks. Steve, do you have that information? Does the pool as currently located comply with front, side, and rear setbacks?
Yes.
It does. Oh, so it is a non-issue.
okay, thank you.
No variance would be required.
Yes.
Okay, so now, since the public comments are concluded.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, sorry, just the town attorney earlier on the tree question said that there was a.
Well, do you have a question?
No, I think he closed out by saying, asking the property owner whether they wanted to change what was originally required. And I don't think we heard an answer to that.
Well, it's not part of the current application that's before
This
you.
is all part of a discussion when you're making a decision. Right now, it's information gathering, continuing, so.
Can we ask a question of the property?
So now, before we close the public portion again, I wanted to ask the applicant, I want to give an opportunity for final rebuttal. So maybe the applicant will come forward. Thank you.
I would just reiterate what Councilmember Heller said, is that the water management plan and the cisterns, they were all done, as directed, like met the code, so, those decisions were all, to meet the water management plan, the size of the cistern, the soil composition, all those sort of things, so, it meets the code.
Okay, thank you. This concludes the public portion of the hearing. Again, the record is now closed, and I will turn it over to the council president to lead the deliberations and the decision.
All right, so we've learned that the pool actually is within the setback limitations.
It sits right on the setback.
All right, that's good.
It's right on.
So we can allow the pool then. And Rohit, how comfortable are you with the answers to questions?
Well, I think the question of the property line has been resolved. I'm still not convinced that we have a tree replanting that's consistent with what was originally agreed by the council.
If you want to turn that to, we require as part of this motion that they with the original permit, so that means 2 trees in the right of way to.
So that can be, the town attorney can respond to that if contingency can be made to accommodate his concern.
Well, Mr. Mayor, yes, certainly, that's up to the council. The point I was trying to make before was this application does not seek to modify the prior approval. So the prior approval remains in full force and effect, and the prior conditions of reforestation aren't being revisited tonight. If the council wants to revisit them, it could, but that it wasn't advertised as part of this application.
But having said that, the current plans don't comply with that.
Right. So, but you're not approving the landscaping plan tonight. You're just approving the water drainage plan that's necessitated by the improvements.
So. Can I ask a question? Why hasn't their landscaping plan been worked on? Like, why haven't these trees been planted?
That's a question for the applicant, but typically, that happens at the end of a project because you don't want soil around the plants compacted that could impact their health, etc. And still got equipment moving in and out.
And I'd like to remind the attorney that the landscaping plan is part of their water management plan.
So is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I mean, like, to me, I think that this will, this needs to be taken care of like now. So, I mean, I don't know if there's things that we can start implementing that they can start working on the front yard and getting some grass or, their plantings like put in the front yard at least, because I mean, it has been a very long time of looking at mud. And, so I don't know what you guys feel in terms of approving of the pool and the cistern and this and that, but.
Well, why don't you try making a motion and the town attorney can assist you?
I make a motion that they start planting things now.
So do you want to help her craft something that, Mr. Town Attorney?
Right
Oh.
Tonight.
Why don't you let the town attorney, he's always good at helping craft motions that address the.
Well, so could you restate what the goal is to
The goal would
visibility
be
or
to have the front yard in particular finished.
But
But I thought we needed to approve the stormwater management.
Yeah.
No. This is not for discussion.
No, I'm just.
let me try a motion and we'll see where we go from there.
Okay.
All right, so I motion that we approve the permit application for the building permit, wall permit, and fence permit submitted by Miriam Rosenthal, Michael Phillips for the property at 5522 Greystone. That includes new deck, 2 retaining walls, 2 new fence gates, several hardscape impervious features to the front side and backyard, and with that, the water management plan and landscaping plan.
Okay, is that legally technically sufficient?
I'll send.
Yes, but I believe you want to add the condition that the site plan be revised to reflect the discharge would terminate at least 15 feet from the front property line and X feet from the side property line.
Right, so that's
So
that, yes,
You're okay with that?
yes, so we add the amendment that it be discharged at least 15 feet from the property line and be directed at the landscaping in the front yard. I think that's sufficient.
Okay, so do you want to restate that? So, and then Councilor Howell, I think is ready to second it, but can you restate what the motion is?
That the application be approved as presented with the following amendment, that a revised site plan be submitted showing the pipe discharge at least 15 feet from the front property line, and that it be directed towards the landscaping in the front yard.
Okay, is that acceptable?
That is acceptable.
Okay, do you second that?
Yes.
Now, what about the planting plan, if you're gonna include that as a part of
Okay,
the
so that motion has been seconded, so now, did you want to make it?
Well, I was just gonna say, but do we have to incorporate, because their plan does not include what the original landscaping plan was to be for reforestation.
Right.
So we need to make sure that they're doing both plans.
Well, as this plan is approved, it still retains the original plan which Ron Bolt gave us. So they still have to satisfy that original plan, even though we're approving this landscaping plan. So that plan still is in place.
Okay,
Right, so we're just approving the new landscaping plan, which is for, to lay out all kinds of plants around both the front and backyard.
can we set a deadline?
Can what?
set a deadline.
So let's ask the town attorney. Don't they have the power
You
to do that?
could impose a deadline for completion of the
So do you
landscape
want
plan.
to, so now there's a motion on the floor, so do you want to make an amendment to oppose a deadline?
Yeah, I would like to make an amendment to oppose the deadline.
Okay,
Okay, and when?
what's the deadline?
That work is done on the front yard. In the next, planting's done in the next 45 days.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there discussion?
I just like to know what's reasonable. That sounds great.
Well, that's the
Would it be
motion,
reasonable?
so defend.
Yeah, I
Okay,
just,
is there further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so it's 4-1. Okay, so now the original motion as amended, is there further discussion?
I know I voted for this amendment, but I'm concerned that 45 days may not be fair. We all want this done. And I just would like to make sure it's done reasonably, is 45 days enough time? I don't know. I don't do this kind of work.
Will you already?
already
Did you already vote for it?
Thank
Okay,
you.
is there further, so if you're concerned, then you vote against. Is there further discussion on the motion?
What is this? Can we repeat this motion again? One more
Mr.
time.
Town Attorney?
That the application be approved as presented with the following modifications. The revised site plan be submitted showing termination of the conveyance pipe at least 15 feet from the front property line, and that it be directed at the landscaping in the front yard, and that the planting plan be completed within 45 days.
And
Front
Councilmember
yard,
Heller,
front yard, in the front.
if they don't meet it, they can come in and request an extension.
Okay,
But
fine.
I think that historically, it's better when the council puts deadlines on.
Okay, no, I'm all right. I'm okay with the
Okay,
deadline.
so is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So Councilmember Rovak, how did
Oh,
you
I
vote?
voted in favor.
Okay, so it passed 3-2, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So we will move to the next item on the agenda. Public hearing consideration of a permit application for a building permit, fence permit, HVAC permit, and dumpster permit submitted by Yael Friedkin and Matt Kovner for the property located at 4822 Cumberland, and we will now begin. Today is May 5th, 2025. This is a hearing before the Town Council of the Town of Somerset for the building permit application submitted by Yael Friedkin and Matt Kovner for the property located at 4822 Cumberland Avenue. The applicants are applying to first construct a two-story addition at the back of the existing house. Second, install a new gate for the existing fence. Third, install a new HVAC system. Fourth, construct a new parking pad. Fifth, place a dumpster. And sixth, remove 4 trees. The hearing will observe the following order. The Somerset Town staff will present their findings and submit for the record a report on the application under consideration. Next, the applicant will present their application or comment on the staff report. Next, the Town Council will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff relevant to the application. Following that, other interested parties will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, present comments to the council. Then, if necessary, the applicant will have the opportunity for a rebuttal, after which the public comment period will be completed and the record closed. Finally, the council will deliberate and discuss among themselves the merits of the case, the findings of fact, and conclusions. The council may make a motion on a permit decision. If any opposition is presented, the town attorney will be asked, can you please turn it down? The town attorney will ask to write a decision and a permit shall not be issued before the expiration of 30 days to allow time for an appeal. If no opposition is presented, the town manager will be asked to issue a permit. We now begin the hearing with the presentation of the town staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In February 2025, the applicants submitted a building application to the town of Somerset. If granted, the applicants would like to begin work as soon as they're able to mobilize and expect the work to be completed in around January 2026. Included in the meeting materials is the permit administrator's memorandum, the town arborist's tree removal permit and tree protection plan, the completed permit application, the notice into abutting and confronting properties, and the site plan and the stormwater management plan. With that, I'll turn it over to permit administrator Circo.
Good evening. Okay. Good night. Good. This is another slightly challenging project in that stormwater management is not able to fully satisfy the requirements to use environmental site design practices. That we use some structural practices in combination. We'll go through that as I talk through it. The lot coverage. This is a significant addition, but it's not such a significant addition that it counts as a new construction or a new build within the county's definition for R60 lot coverage. Even if it did, it wouldn't really matter because this is such a large lot that we're going from a house that currently occupies less than 6% of the lot to a house that will occupy about 8.5% of the lot. Around here. So as we look at the envelope, and I really appreciate the eagle-eyed questions from Kabir on the code. And I'm gonna have to do some, on the previous house, do some re-excavation of improvements and extensions of that house. In this case, they're building back in the lot, up and back, and they're not changing the height, so they continue to conform with the town's code, and they conform within all the setback requirements. The reason why I cannot be precise in the setback from the property line is because the property bridges 2 lots. And I discussed this with Shane, the engineer. They would have had to go through the expense of a formal survey to define that overall lot or their house plot over those 2 lots. And they didn't need to because they're set back sufficiently from one lot that is defined. I'm just trying to, if you were to look at a picture of the lot, what I'm trying to describe would make a lot more sense. But basically, I'm indicating like I say walls in the setbacks because they're 20+ feet setback from the lot, and the lot line is another 20+ or 30 feet over to before the property line of the next neighbor. Well set back. So the stormwater management, they do have soil that supports environmental site design practices. It's a Class B soil, and but they do have challenges on the lot, and that's the slope of the lot. As is typical with a lot of houses in Middle Dorset, area of Lower Cumberland, Dorset. It's a heavily sloped lot, and where they're building, they cannot like install a rain garden in the rear of the house. Even though there's plenty of land, topography doesn't support it. So they're proposing a combination of features, a set of dry wells on the side of the house. Those dry wells are a structural practice by the town code and less desirable than than traditional ESD practices, using micro infiltration to capture the runoff from the patio, new patio and bay window. And there's a disconnect from the new walkway that they're putting in. The total provides for full coverage of runoff from the addition. And that's, let's see. The driveway is an interesting thing. They're building a extended parking area off the side of the driveway inside their property line. They're using permeable pavers because of some constraints of the geography there and the way the permeable pavement is set up with foundations around the edges. There, let's see if I have those. The parking area is 1,168 square feet. They're only able to make 712 square feet of that fully permeable through the permeable pavers. So they provide compensation for that difference, which is about 400 some odd square feet, through additional capacity in the other areas I've already described. So overall, I believe they fully compliant stormwater management plan proposal. That's really big.
And yeah, turn it over to Dr. Stubbs.
They propose to remove 3 trees. I think 4 need to be removed. They're gonna build a retaining wall next to the Japanese maple in front, and I don't think it'll be protected. There's a Styrax in the rear that's in the footprint of one of the additions. And there's a dogwood and a locust in the back slope that it can't be protected because the slope's gonna be regraded. So I suggested approval, recommend approval of the 4 tree removals. And there'll be a bond of $2,000. And reforestation would be 1 canopy tree and 3 ornamental trees. And the canopy trees would be 2 to 2.5 inch caliper for size, and the ornamental trees would be 60 in height. And I had photographs and also. As far as tree protection, the driveway needs to be modified to protect the oak tree in front of the parking area in the driveway. And the rest is straightforward. All these trees can be protected from the construction. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And that concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you. We now have the applicant or representative to come forward and introduce yourself and welcome, and you can either present or comment on the report, whatever you'd like to say.
My name is George Water. I'm a technical client, and I'll keep it as short as you guys want to answer questions. If that's how you guys want to do it, however you guys.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much. Council President, if you can just say there.
So we do have a amendment to the proposed plan. We're removing the driveway modification, the parking area modification from the plan. My client, after thinking about it a little more, we would like to modify it, and so we're taking that out of the county plan. We'll do it, or Josh to take that out of the application here as well, and we're going to modify that.
Okay, thank you. Does the staff want to say anything?
That's for the tree protection.
And that would, that's so we go keep the red.
Red.
So, Mr. Town, Permanent Administrator, do you want to say anything about that will help the council?
Sorry, I didn't And
This is
realize this change.
this is kind of a last minute, so, as we were going in, we were debating on what.
If you can talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
it, so because we're recording.
As we were going in, we were debating on what was gonna be the best, way to solve the issue. And so this was originally proposed, and as, you know, we developed it, because they're currently renting a home, so the idea is to get, the construction going on this as fast as possible. We got to a place where we thought we were comfortable, we submitted everything, and then later on, they were like, we'd really like to do this, and so it was kind of too late to get that, developed and presented for this meeting, so we're just gonna boil, we're gonna have time to think about it, we're gonna have time to consider it, and when they're ready for it, there'll be another application to that, but at this current point, they ended up being like, we don't like this, and so we don't want to do it. I mean,
Okay, let me ask it, Mr. Town Attorney, would it be appropriate for us to continue? Is this something that needs?
They withdrawing the application.
So it is difficult, Mr. Mayor, to approve a site plan without knowing where the driveway will
there
be.
would be no change, it would just be the existing driveway. So it'd just be no change, it just is what it is right now, and we're not asking for that anymore.
So the existing. It's hard to see.
Here, I think
You're
it-
removing the new parking path, parking area, just
From the scope of work, so we're just requesting less now.
might be helpful.
It's on page 17
Okay.
of 25 of the
So-
plan.
So, but my question though is whether this is sufficient to move forward without having.
So it is permissible to remove things, Mr. Mayor, so long as, I mean, there is a feasible driveway now.
So it is, can we see it?
Yeah.
It's on slide 17 out of
This
25.
really isn't up to the council to decide, this would be up to the town attorney to decide whether it's possible to move. If it's legally
Those two
sufficient
cars
to move
there.
forward.
So this is,
Oh, I see.
this is it, this is the existing layout right here, so we have the driveway that's coming up, we have a walkway that's coming from the driveway to the main entrance. What we were requesting was a modification of this, to have a parking area in the front here, but now we're not requesting that, we're just keeping the existing driveway and the existing.
And the existing.
So we need to ask, now this is for the town attorney to verify that we can.
Yes, yeah,
Proceed
yeah,
without
legally you
having-
can proceed, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
with removal of the new driveway. And this question for Dr. Feather would be, given that one tree is now not going to be removed, does that alter your reforestation recommendation?
Oh, that tree wasn't gonna be removed anyway.
I thought that was one of the four.
No, it's, this is the tree, they were never gonna remove this tree.
Not that tree.
Yeah, this is the one that was gonna be removed.
Yeah, because of the retaining wall, so
That
now
was a retaining wall there.
since we're not doing that, we can do that tree.
Oh, so, okay, so retaining wall is part of the driveway
Yeah.
plan.
Yep.
Okay. So, thank you, Ron.
And so this guy was that red maple right there was part of the driveway modification, but now the driveway modification is not going to be done, that tree will remain.
So we modified the tree removal report to say one canopy tree and two ornamental trees for reforestation.
And the bond would be reduced to
Yeah. To
1,500.
Okay, so Mr. Town Attorney, it is okay to proceed with this even though the public has not been noticed of this change.
Yes, because of it's a modification downward.
Okay, guys, let me make sure. Council President Barr, do you have any questions?
Yes, with that change, I believe that because some of the driveway that you've now dropped was impermeable, you had increased the capacity of the stormwater mitigation devices on the property. Are you changing those devices now, or are you leaving them with that capacity, which is now greater than you need, in fact, for?
We were working with civil engineer, and then hopefully the civil engineer is on the call right now.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Shane can speak to that?
Yes, the parking area was treating itself as permeable gravel paving. So if it's removed, then that's the square footage that's being removed. So it's 1-for-1.
So the additional.
All right, yeah, sorry, our permit administrator said only 700 feet of the 1,100 feet was permeable, and so 400 feet was not permeable, but that was being captured by other mitigation devices. Is that not true?
No, the driveway was capturing itself, but we're going to be proposing no additional driveway area.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. All right, okay, all's good.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Howell, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Councilor Kumar,
No questions.
Councilor Rovak,
No questions.
Councilor Khan.
No questions.
Are there comments?
Yes. Well, that's fine.
Okay. Mr. Chair. Did you have a comment or question?
Went to sleep.
Wouldn't surprise me.
His hand hurts. I think we can move on.
I say that with love.
Yeah.
Okay, well. So this concludes the public portion of the hearing. The record is now closed. The council may now discuss and deliberate on the findings of fact and conclusions of the law. You may vote on the application, and I will turn it over to the council president.
All right, so the only change that we've talked about is that they're dropping the new parking pad. Otherwise, it is as proposed. Any thoughts about this one? Anybody who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
I think it's fine. I think it's great. They're not tearing it down. They're renovating it. And kudos to them. We should pass this.
I agree with that.
I agree.
All right, all right. So
I'm prepared to make a motion.
I'll make the motion that to approve the permit application for the building permit, fence permit, HVAC permit, and dumpster permit submitted by Beacon and Matt Kovner for property at 4822 Cumberland to construct a two-story addition, install a new gate for the existing fence, install a new HVAC system, place a dumpster, and remove 4 trees. That's it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
Yes.
Well,
3 trees.
yeah, and
Okay, 3 trees.
and the modification of the tree reforestation plan to be reduced to 1 canopy tree and 2 ornamental
So
trees.
you're
and a
adding this to the
$1,500
motion.
bond.
And
Okay.
who seconded it?
I did, I accept that.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, congratulations, welcome. The next item is our building report by our town permitting administrator.
You're welcome. I'm so sorry you had to sit through that.
Welcome to the
You should have gone first.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. We like to read you. Like that.
Sorry it took so long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The building report, kind of color coded, so the items in green are the 2 building permits that we reviewed this evening. The changes from the last month are yellow, not counting the few that were removed that was really done. The only interesting item I wanted to call attention to, just because it's something the council might want to think about, is paper work. So in the town plan, there is a warway that goes through the town parks land. And actually, what I think of as Trent Circle is a Warwick Place.
Oh, wow.
And in consultation with the town attorney, this impacts some projects that are conceived, that are not come to the council yet. Because the established building line, the setback is from this imaginary road.
Wow.
Because it's in the town's plan, it's part of the town's charter, I guess. So that might be something that either developers will come forward, homeowners will come and request variances, or there's a reason to.
Okay, so we'll put that, we'll have put that.
That's
Yeah,
what they want to highlight.
Did you have anything else? Did you want to continue your report?
That's it. So any questions, comments about? I don't want to read through it.
Okay, Council President Hardy.
I went down to 5400 Trent to find out what you were talking about there, and sure enough, it's almost in line with Warwick. It's true. But established building line means established buildings, not imagined concepts for buildings. And the established buildings are the ones in the neighborhood of Trent Circle, as you call it. And that's what the setbacks would be calculated against.
So happily, the EBL ordinance that was introduced has not yet been voted upon. So we could add that clarification.
Yeah. Well, established building means established building, you know?
Okay, do you have any further questions?
No.
Councilmember Howland, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Councilor Kumar.
I don't have any questions, but I wanted to thank Steve for how the information was presented at the hearings today. It was very helpful.
Yeah.
To get all the data. Thank you.
Councilor Rovak.
No questions.
Councilor Khanna.
Sorry to keep everybody here all night, but it's 10:15 a.m. in Singapore, so I'm awake now.
That's what I was thinking. The guy's
But
awake.
just
The rest
remember,
of us
we're
are-
not.
The rest of us are dying, yeah.
Sorry, 4815 Cumberland, Steve, and maybe EJ can answer this. I had asked a question about the tree that's in the town right of way. It was planted there. So have we issued a license for this tree in the town right of way? I'm also not sure I fully understand what's being referred to here as a verbal agreement. I thought that we had required something to be signed regarding the shared driveway and the gravel over there. So that's on 4815 Cumberland.
It's not a verbal agreement. It's written down.
4815 Cumberland?
Yeah, the second last sentence says the two properties reached a verbal agreement in February 2025.
There's like a verbal agreement for the plan to move forward. But we need to formally accept this what was actually done.
Because I'm
gotcha.
saying that the variance there was
so-
based on.
So a license to use the right of way was no longer required because they weren't going to be expanding any portion in the right of way. The driveway was going to remain at its pre-existing width on the neighbor's side. So we didn't require the license to use the right of way since they weren't expanding it.
What about this tree that's in the right of way?
Is it the same property?
Yes. New tree that's being planted in the town right of way.
I'll defer to EJ on that one. I'm not familiar with that.
Find it real quick.
So stated another way, we couldn't require them to sign an agreement for what was already there.
Yeah. I understand that. They didn't change the driveway.
Right.
Sorry?
I can't, I don't have the paper in front of me, I think it's really big, pretty plan,
Yeah.
big plan. Front of the church.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
Oh, okay. I mean, I can pull up that too then. I thought it was
Well,
post.
if you can't get it, we can get it.
Yeah, that was also.
Which is
This is the third time I'm asking this question, that's why I'm.
I think, wasn't that the tree that was stolen supposedly?
No, this is-
that's
that's
not-
a different
no,
Hold on, this is for,
I have that.
but in the interest of time, we'll get that to you tomorrow.
I'm happy to get it tomorrow, but
Do you have
EJ,
another
I would
question?
like the information tomorrow. This is the third time I'm asking this question.
Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, 5529 Surrey. Sorry, just to clarify, the stop order was lifted, but what was done about this larger patio and the violation of the fence code? Have those been fixed? Also, there's no house number on the construction site.
So I can comment, the stormwater is, they're working with an engineer and we're in contact with both, so they will be likely at the next council meeting here with an amended stormwater management plan for the council to consider. And then I reached out regarding the house certification. I'll follow up with them on that. And then they've received they should be working with the neighbors on the fence issue. So I will.
Sorry, you said stormwater. I'm asking about the larger patio.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. That's like
Okay.
extended plan includes the expanded stormwater.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about a house number on this?
Yeah, I've sent an email. I'll follow up again tomorrow.
Again, I don't think there's any point having a code if we're not going to enforce it. And literally, there's been months with no house number there. Our chair of our public safety committee is probably having a conniption if we could connect.
We all are. Okay, any more questions?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. The next item is tree removal permits. The first is public hearing consideration of the tree removal permit submitted by Diane Blue and Michael Rose for the property located at 5500 Greystone. Dr. Feather.
Okay, I got a bunch here.
But we're starting with 5500 Greystone.
Okay, let me now. 5500 Greystone is a 40-inch pin off in the backyard. You can see in the picture, it's 50% dead, not 75. Hazardous, I recommend. That concludes that.
Okay.
Can you go on? We'll do them all in one motion.
But wait a minute. Is there anybody on online that might want to comment on that tree? Okay. Okay, yes. Go forward, present each one, then we'll have questions.
Okay, then there are in the order of the agenda.
Okay.
4721 Dorset is a white pine in the backyard, 8-inch diameter, and it's dead. 4809 Fallstone is a public flowering cherry. The last one was a private tree. It's a public flowering cherry, 7-inch diameter, and it's dead. 4800 Grantham is a pin oak, 38-inch in diameter. It's 50% dead, will not revive. I also talked with the owners of the house today. They were concerned, but agreed that it needs to come down. 5710 Surrey is a silver maple, 48 inches in diameter. And it's half dead as well, and will not revive, and just half of this. And the last one is 4705 Fallstone. There's a pine 16 inches dead and leaning into the street. Everybody asked about it. You'll bring it to that.
All right, everybody.
So that included the addition that was added.
Yes, that's the last one.
Okay, Council President Bar, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Councilmember Heller.
No questions.
Councilmember Kumar.
No questions.
Councilmember Rovak.
No question.
Councilmember Khanna.
No question.
Don't be afraid to ask a question.
Okay,
Council, you prepared to make a motion?
I propose the motion to approve all the tree removal permits and tree removal recommendations that Dr. Feather mentioned.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, thank you. The next item is to introduce an ordinance to adopt a town fee schedule for fiscal year July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026. Mr. Town Manager.
This was kind of discussed earlier in this meeting, also of course discussed at the last work session. This would update the fee schedule as discussed previously.
And this is just an introduction.
And this is just an introduction.
Yeah. Council President Vardy, any questions?
No questions.
Councilmember Heller.
No questions.
Councilmember Kumar.
No questions.
Councilmember Rovak.
No questions.
Councilmember Khanna.
So we introduced it for adoption at the next council meeting.
So it's published, so we get comments.
But I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at the last meeting, we had discussed the possibility of the generator and HVAC fees being different. So
Yeah.
should we not reflect the fact that we have proposed them to be different? Secondly, I think that we had also talked about the possibility of having the fees for the building additions more in line with some of the other towns where there's a gradation for larger additions. Recognizing the fact that it would be more work for the town whenever it's a more complex project. So I don't see any of that in this proposed fee schedule.
So you can make an amendment tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure.
Otherwise, well, what I would suggest is that you introduce it this way and then bring your amendments when it's voted on.
Can we, I agree with that, but can we have like a list of what we talked about in terms of putting these more in line?
Yeah,
You know.
Well,
have your
what I would
recommendation.
suggest is that you introduce it tonight. And then we will have an agenda item on the work session to discuss it, and then at the June meeting, it could be voted on or not.
Mhm.
So is there a motion to introduce this fee schedule?
Well, the motion to introduce the fee
Okay,
schedule, yes.
Is there a
but-
second? Is there
and-
discussion?
Well, do we want to add the amendments that you mentioned, which are, as.
No, I asked if you want, okay, so the motion is to introduce the fee schedule.
All right,
Is anybody gonna second that?
Oh,
okay.
Okay, so now, does anyone want to make a motion to make any kind of amendment before it's introduced? The whole purpose of that would be so that there could be comment on it, because this will be published. So do you want to publish with the amendments, or do you want to circulate amendments and discuss them during the month? It's up to you.
Yeah, I think on the generator and HVAC, it's pretty straightforward. I think we'd agreed that, I think we can publish it with the generator at 100 and HVAC at 75, which I think is what we had discussed last time. That we were going to keep the HVAC unit at 75 and up the generator to 100.
So is that what's in that list now?
It's not what it is now, they're both showing 100.
Okay, so do you have an amendment?
So my amendment is the generator, the increase from 75 to 100, and HVAC unit stay at 75.
Okay, well, you don't have that.
Second.
It's just to change the one. So your amendment is just to change that one?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Change the HVAC.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now the fee schedule as amended, is there further discussion?
Well, the question is about the other.
Yes, I mean, the problem is the other amendment requires a little bit more thought and structure, and I mean, honestly, I had not,
Well, what's the amendment?
well, the amendment
What's your-
was
tell me
going
what
to
your
be
problem is.
that the fees for building additions were going to be higher as.
Well, that isn't any, but the fee schedule includes some current numbers, right?
Right.
So I don't think you're prepared tonight to amend it.
No.
And so remember, the fee schedule so what I would suggest is that you amend it, is that you introduce it as amended. And then so just because you vote on that one particular fee in June doesn't mean you can't change it in the future. See what I'm saying?
The question
So-
is, why didn't we introduce this with those changes
Yeah.
from the work session?
When we
So-
did the work session.
So the reason is because the changes were a bit more, it felt like more discussion was warranted, so I was planning
I
on
see.
bringing a proposal to the work session.
Yeah.
That was gonna have all
So
this,
for
but
tonight,
I also had to have something introduced,
Yeah,
so I didn't have something ready.
yeah,
Fine.
I don't think, you have many options to discuss and change it, but you're not prepared tonight.
Well, let's
so-
get it on the work session agenda.
So I would suggest that you introduce this. There's the motion on the table.
Yes,
Is there
let's vote
further
on it.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it's introduced, so there'll be articles written and excellent. And then the last item is that public safety request, which, Mr. Town Attorney, do you understand what the request was? And I'm not sure the council action is required. So I'll let the town manager, I'll bring it on.
It's not on the agenda.
It was added.
Remember, it was added.
What's the item?
So this was the language for
Okay, so
the language for introduction used at the April 7th meeting was to introduce the Public Safety Committee's recommendation to install extra stop signs, stop ahead signs, and ladder style crosswalks at Cumberland and World Lane and at Dorset and Devon Lane.
all right, so we took that introduction out because the council president took it off.
What?
Yeah, he took it off. It was on there.
Mr. President.
It was on the proposed agenda that I
Let's just
gave
vote
you,
for it now.
and you
Let's
took it off.
agreed during the work
So
session.
now it's put back on.
Okay.
So
Let's go.
read it again so that
Well,
so that someone can introduce.
well, for here it would be to consider adoption of the Public Safety Committee's recommendation to install extra stop signs, stop ahead signs, and ladder style crosswalks at Cumberland and Warwick Lane and at Dorset and Devon Lane.
Okay, so so now we need to go around with questions. Council President Barr, do you have any questions?
No, we discussed this at the work session. We thought we agreed to do it.
Yeah, but you wanted for the, okay, Councilmember Heller, do you have any questions?
No, I thought we agreed.
Okay, Councilmember Kumar,
No questions.
Councilmember Rovak,
No question.
Councilmember Khan.
So just to be clear, there are 4 items that were recommended by the Public Safety Committee. You read it so fast that I only captured 3, I think. Pavement marking stating pedestrian crossing stop, add a stop sign, install diamond-shaped pedestrian ahead warning sign, add high visibility ladder style crosswalk. I just want to be clear that we're on the same text.
Okay, so
EJ, is that what you read?
So,
You read it a little fast, so I
so-
didn't follow. I just trusted,
Sorry.
yeah.
okay, so that's, okay, so now you've all asked questions, so now it's the opportunity for public comment. Mr. Chair, I think.
Oh, and Mr. Mayor, so stop intersections do need to be approved by ordinance. The other items
I see.
can be approved
Well,
by,
that's probably why the council president took it off. And so anyway, now,
So we can consider the other 3.
Other
items.
3, that's
So-
clear, yes.
but no one's made a motion yet on the
We have public comments.
So apparently, tonight, the council cannot approve one item.
Yeah.
So-
and I would also say, Mr. Mayor, that traffic signs generally need to conform to the Maryland design on uniform traffic control devices. And I can't give you an opinion whether the proposal complies. You know, maybe the committee can. In other words, we don't want to post a stop ahead sign if it's not in conformance with the Maryland design. manual.
So this agenda item was added, and I would suggest that a motion be made to table this to the next town meeting.
Well, let me get clarification from the attorney before we go. Are you saying that a second stop sign at the intersection requires an ordinance where there is already a stop sign?
No, a stop ahead warning sign.
Well, and quickly just read from the Public Safety Committee's recommendation in terms of the manual. It does say the PSC would like to add the following caveat: we have not consulted traffic safety engineers on the manual on uniform traffic control devices. However, all the strategies listed above, and it lists all the strategies, are in use at various locations throughout town. If the council believes that an engineer should be consulted before making these improvements, then the town should initiate the process to engage one. In that case, it'd be beneficial for the council to establish a timeline for the hiring of an expert, production of a report, review of the report by the staff and council, and the implementation of recommendations.
So I would recommend that there's not enough information to vote on this tonight.
But what about the other 2 items? All the items?
I don't.
There's pavement markings, stop sign, diamond shaped pedestrian sign, and high visibility.
I don't think the
Pavement markings.
the pavement markings.
Can we hear from?
Hold on a second. The pavement markings don't require council approval, correct, Mr. D'Antonio?
Um,
It's administrative.
yeah, I think that's right, Mr. Mayor. I just hesitated because I would suggest that an engineer even review.
I recommend
Crosswalks.
that this is not ready.
Yeah.
The council president was right, that this is not ready to be decided at this late hour tonight, so.
Because we wouldn't want to design
I would suggest.
something to get us in trouble.
that A motion be made to table this to the next council meeting.
All right, it seems obvious that we should consult an engineer before we do this, so
So make your
let's
motion.
arrange that. So,
No, we don't,
but,
no, I would recommend that we table it right now. It's 10:35.
well, Kumar wants to say something.
Yeah. Let him,
He's with us.
yeah, he will walk.
Okay, go for it.
Speak,
Mr.
Kumar.
Chair.
Okay, thank you. So if you feel you need more time to study this, I guess my suggestion is you initiate that process forthwith and set a deadline for it. That's my only suggestion. The other thing I would say is these locations are already stop intersections. I don't think you need, I don't want to argue with the town attorney, but you've already authorized stop signs for these intersections. All we're asking is that you do what you've already done at Dorset at Devon, which is add a stop sign on the left.
Yeah.
In other words, it's already in the code that you have
Okay.
to set this section.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't seen your report.
I'm sorry, but I think that in the best interest of the public, that this should be tabled until next week.
Yeah.
But it's up to you.
I think that's fine, but can we get whatever we need for
Can
the
you-
next work
Can you,
session?
I'll do my, yeah, I'll.
right,
The best you
that's,
can,
that-
yeah, thank you.
that's-
Even if it's you split it up.
right, so
Okay.
you'll talk to an engineer and report back.
Okay,
at a work session.
Mr. President, did you want to make a motion?
I make a motion to table the public safety recommendations for the alterations to the warning signs and stop signs at the Devon and Dorset intersection and the Warwick
To the
and
June,
and
meeting.
Cumberland intersection.
Is
To the June meeting, yes, but
is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? We will work on this together.
right, but I do want it at the work session.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And is there a motion to adjourn?
So
I have some,
Stop sign
Oh,
on the left
oh,
side.
I want to answer the council.
The meeting's adjourned.
Meeting's over, so you
But
can
you can
answer.
still.
But you can still tell.
Answer him anyway.
Still talk to me.
Yeah.
Still talk to me.
I mean, if you want to.
Thank you, everybody. Great meeting.